For 16 years, the world believed Elon Musk's version of his first divorce. Incompatible priorities, different life paths, two people who simply grew apart while building the future. But in a safety deposit box in Beverly Hills, 5 letters waited, written by Justine Musk the day before her divorce was finalized, addressed to the children she was leaving behind. Open only when you're ready to know why everything fell apart. When Griffin Musk, the oldest surviving son, found those letters in 2024, he discovered something that shattered everything he thought he knew. His parents' marriage didn't end because of different goals. It ended because of a dead baby, a secret affair, and a pattern of silencing anyone who threatened Elon's carefully constructed image. This is the story of what happened when Nevada Alexander Musk died at 10 weeks old in 2002, and how his death set off a chain reaction that would fracture one of the world's most famous families. This is the story of children who were created through IVF as solutions to grief, raised by a father who treated emotions like engineering problems, and finally decided that 16 years of silence was 16 years too long. This is the truth that lawyers tried to bury, that NDAs tried to silence, and that one dying witness in Toronto finally had the courage to reveal. The lies are over. The truth starts now. I existed for 10 weeks. That's not very long when you think about it. 10 weeks is how long it takes to grow a sunflower. 10 weeks is one summer vacation. 10 weeks is 70 days of sunrise and sunset, of hearts beating, of the world spinning forward. My name was Nevada Alexander Musk, and I died on a Tuesday. I don't remember much, babies don't, but I remember the feeling of being loved. My mother's heartbeat when she held me close. My father's careful hand supporting my head. I remember warmth, safety, the absolute certainty that I was wanted. Then I remember nothing. SIDS, they called it. Sudden infant death syndrome. A fancy medical term that means we don't know why your baby stopped breathing. It happened in Orange County, California in 2002. A regular Tuesday morning that became the worst day of two people's lives. I'm telling you this because what happened next, the divorce, the accusations, the 16 years of silence, it all started with me. Or rather, it started with how two people tried to survive losing me. Present-day Bel Air, California. Griffin Musk stood in his mother's old bedroom, dust particles dancing in the afternoon light streaming through the window. The house on Summer Road had been sold years ago, but he'd convinced the new owners to let him collect some forgotten boxes from the attic. His mother, Justine, had left in such a hurry back in 2008 that she'd abandoned half her life in cardboard containers. At 20 years old, Griffin had his father's sharp features and his mother's thoughtful eyes. He was the quiet one, the twin who didn't make waves. While his sister Vivian had legally changed her name and publicly disowned their father, Griffin kept his head down, studied engineering at UT Austin, and tried not to think too hard about the cracks running through his family tree. But today, those cracks had become impossible to ignore. The box he'd opened was labeled 2008 Personal in his mother's handwriting. Inside, journals, photographs, legal documents, and letters. So many letters. Griffin's hands shook as he lifted out a leather journal, its pages swollen from years of temperature changes in the attic. He opened it carefully. March 15, 2008. I saw them together today at the Fremont factory. Elon and that actress. The way he looked at her, like she was the answer to a question I didn't know he was asking. It's been 6 years since Nevada died, and I finally understand. My husband didn't just lose our son. He lost the ability to love me. Griffin's throat tightened. He'd been 4 years old in March 2008. He remembered nothing of that time except the vague sense of his mother crying a lot and his father never being home. He kept reading, flipping through pages of his mother's pain written in blue ink. The divorce papers were filed in September 2008. By then, his mother had checked out completely, and his father had already moved on to someone new. Griffin set the journal aside and reached deeper into the box. His fingers touched an envelope, cream-colored and sealed with red wax. His name was written across the front in his mother's careful script. For Griffin, open only when you're ready to know why everything fell apart. The date below his name made his stomach drop. September 12, 2008, the day before the divorce was finalized. Griffin stared at the envelope for a long moment. 16 years. This letter had been waiting for him for 16 years. His phone buzzed. A text from his triplet brothers, Kai, Saxon, and Damien, now 18 and about to graduate high school. Kai, did you find anything at the old house? Saxon, Mom's been weird lately. Asked us if we remembered the Fremont factory. Damien, Dad mentioned Nevada at dinner last night. First time ever, something's happening. Griffin typed back with one hand, still holding the envelope with the other. Griffin, found something. We need to talk, all of us. He took a breath and broke the wax seal. Inside was a single sheet of paper folded 3 times. His mother's handwriting filled both sides, small and cramped, like she'd had too much to say and not enough space to say it. My darling Griffin. If you're reading this, it means you're old enough to understand that sometimes love isn't enough. That sometimes 2 people can both be right and still destroy each other. Your father and I loved Nevada with everything we had. When we lost him, I wanted to grieve. I wanted to cry and rage and fall apart until I could somehow put myself back together. Your father wanted to fix it, to solve death itself, to make sure it never happened again. 3 months after Nevada died, your father presented me with IVF paperwork and genetic screening options. He had charts, statistics, research papers. He explained how we could select embryos, how we could prevent another Sid's death through science. I said yes because I didn't know how to say no. Because I was drowning and he was offering a life raft, even if it was made of metal and cold logic instead of warmth and understanding. You and Vivian were born from that decision. Then Kai, Saxon, and Damien. 5 beautiful children created from grief instead of joy. But that's not why I left. Griffin's hands were shaking so badly now that the paper rattled. He forced himself to keep reading. In March 2008, I discovered your father had fallen in love with someone else, an actress named Tallulah Riley. Young, brilliant, untouched by the kind of loss that had marked us both. I could have forgiven an affair. I could have forgiven him moving on. What I couldn't forgive was the look in his eyes when I confronted him at the Tesla factory. He didn't apologize. He didn't beg me to stay. He said, "She doesn't need me to be anything but successful. You need me to be human, and I can't afford that right now." That's when I knew. I'd been married to a man who saw emotions as weaknesses to overcome, who saw our children, you, my love, as solutions to a problem rather than people who deserved a father present in their pain. I'm leaving not because I don't love him. I'm leaving because staying will teach you that love means swallowing your truth. And I want more for you than that. The divorce will be ugly. He'll make me sign papers that keep me quiet. The world will think I'm bitter, jealous, crazy. But you'll know the truth someday. There's more to this story. Things I can't write down because lawyers will use my words against me. If you want to know everything, the real reason our family broke, you'll need to find someone who was there. A woman named Tallulah Brown. She witnessed what really happened at Fremont, what your father did to protect his image. I love you, Griffin. You and your siblings are the only good things to come from the wreckage. Find Tallulah. She'll tell you why I couldn't fight anymore. Mom. Griffin read the letter 3 times, his mind racing. Tallulah Brown, Fremont Factory, March 2008. His phone buzzed again. This time it was Vivian, his twin. They barely spoke anymore. She couldn't forgive their father, and Griffin couldn't stop trying to understand him. Vivian, I know you found something. I can feel it. Whatever it is, I'm ready to know. Are you? Griffin looked at the letter in his hands, then at the journal, then at the dozens of other boxes still waiting to be opened. 16 years of secrets. 16 years of his mother's silence and his father's carefully constructed narrative about incompatibility and different life goals. But this promised something else. A truth that had been buried under legal documents and public statements, and the kind of money that could make inconvenient witnesses disappear. Griffin typed back to all his siblings in a group chat he hadn't used in months. Griffin, emergency meeting, Austin, this weekend. I found out why they really got divorced, and it's not what anyone told us. He photographed the letter, his hand steadier now. Whatever he was about to uncover, he wasn't doing it alone. Outside the window, the California sun was setting over Bel Air, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. Somewhere in that same sky, his father was probably on a private jet, flying between Tesla factories and SpaceX launch sites, building the future. But Griffin was about to dig into the past, and something told him that once he started, everything would change. The letter had ended with a name, Tallulah Brown. Griffin opened his laptop and typed it into a search engine. The hunt for the truth had begun. Griffin's laptop screen glowed in the dim attic light. He typed Tallulah Brown Tesla 2008 into the search bar and hit enter. Nothing. He tried again. Tallulah Brown, Engineer, California. Still nothing useful. Just random LinkedIn profiles of people who weren't the right age, the right location, the right anything. Griffin sat back, frustrated. Of course it wouldn't be that easy. If his father's lawyers had been involved, this woman had probably vanished on purpose. New name, new city, new life. His phone rang. Vivian's face filled the screen, a recent photo where she dyed her hair purple and looked happier than Griffin had seen her in years. "You can't just drop a bomb like that and go silent," Vivian said the moment he answered. "What did you find?" Griffin hesitated. He and Vivian used to share everything. They'd been born together, spent their first 4 years attached at the hip, but somewhere around age 12, they'd started splitting apart. Vivian questioned everything about their father. Griffin tried to make peace with it all. "A letter from Mom," Griffin finally said. "From the day before the divorce was finalized. She says there's more to the story, something she legally couldn't tell us." "An NDA," Vivian said immediately. "Dad made her sign an NDA. I always suspected." "How did you?" "Griffin, I've been researching this for 2 years, ever since I changed my name. I pulled every public record I could find about the divorce. The settlement was sealed. That only happens when someone pays for silence." Griffin felt a flash of irritation. "You've been investigating our parents for 2 years and didn't tell me." "You still have Sunday dinners with Dad at Starbase," Vivian shot back. "You think I was going to trust you with this?" The words stung, but Griffin couldn't argue. He did still see their father regularly. He was the only one of Elon's older children who did. Kai, Saxon, and Damien kept their distance. Vivian had cut contact completely. "I'm not Dad's spy," Griffin said quietly. I wanted to understand him, to see if there was a way to fix our family." Vivian's expression softened on the screen. "I know. That's why I'm calling now instead of showing up at your apartment and stealing that letter. What else did Mom say?" Griffin summarized the letter, including the name Tallulah Brown and the mention of the Fremont factory incident. Vivian was quiet for a long moment. "I need to show you something. Can you meet me in Austin tomorrow? That cafe on South Congress. You know the one." "Joe's Coffee?" Griffin asked. They used to go there during his freshman year at UT Austin back when Vivian still visited him. 2 o'clock, come alone." Vivian paused. "And Griffin, don't tell Dad about this." "Not yet, promise me." Griffin looked at the letter in his hand, then at his mother's journal, then at the boxes still unopened around him. "I promise." Austin, Texas. Joe's Coffee, South Congress Avenue. The next afternoon, Griffin sat at an outdoor table, watching tourists take photos with the "I love you so much" mural on the cafe's wall. Austin was hot in October, the kind of dry heat that made everything feel sharper, more real. Vivian arrived exactly at 2, wearing jeans and an oversized blazer. She looked different every time Griffin saw her, like she was still figuring out who she wanted to be. Today, she looked nervous. "You're sure no one followed you?" Vivian asked, sitting down without ordering anything. "I'm not in a spy movie," Griffin said. "I took an Uber from my apartment." Vivian pulled a small backpack off her shoulder and set it on the table. "I've been meeting with someone, a journalist who specializes in tech industry NDAs and silenced employees. She's been helping me gather information." "About Mom and Dad?" "About Dad," Vivian corrected. "About all the stories that got buried under piles of money and legal threats." She unzipped the backpack and pulled out a USB drive. "This has testimonies from 12 people who worked at Tesla or SpaceX between 2005 and 2010. People who saw things, uncomfortable things." Griffin felt his stomach twist. "What kind of things?" "Affairs, workplace harassment complaints that disappeared, engineers who got fired for speaking up, and yes, a woman named Tallulah Brown who worked at the Fremont factory in early 2008. Griffin leaned forward. "You found her?" "Not exactly. I found her employment records. She was an engineer in the Quality Control Division, hired in January 2008, gone by May 2008. Her termination paperwork says voluntary resignation, but the severance package was massive. Like, 'We need you to disappear' massive." Vivian slid the USB drive across the table. "There's a file on here, an anonymous interview from someone who worked with her. They wouldn't give me her current name or location, but they told me what happened, why Mom mentioned her in the letter." "Tell me," Griffin said. Vivian glanced around, making sure no one was listening. The cafe was busy, filled with college students and remote workers. No one cared about their conversation. Tallulah Brown witnessed Dad having an affair with Tallulah Riley, the actress. She saw them together at the factory multiple times. When she mentioned it to a colleague, someone reported it up the chain. Mom found out. When Mom confronted Dad, he threatened to ruin Tallulah Brown's career if she ever spoke about it publicly. Griffin felt sick. He threatened an employee for seeing something. "It gets worse," Vivian said. "According to this interview, Dad didn't just threaten her. He had his lawyers draw up a legal complaint accusing her of stealing proprietary information. It was completely false, but it was enough to terrify her into signing an NDA and leaving the company. Mom saw the whole thing happen. She realized Dad would destroy anyone who threatened his image, even innocent people." Griffin sat back in his chair, his mind reeling. His father, the man who talked about saving humanity, about making life multiplanetary, about building a better future, had crushed someone's career to hide an affair. "That's why Mom left," Vivian continued. "Not just because of the cheating, but because she saw who Dad really was when his reputation was on the line, someone who would sacrifice anyone to protect himself." Griffin picked up the USB drive, turning it over in his hands. "Why didn't Mom ever tell us this?" "The NDA," Vivian said. "She signed it as part of the divorce settlement. She can't talk about Dad's affairs, his business practices during their marriage, or anything that could damage his companies. If she does, she loses custody rights and financial support." "That's insane." "That's power," Vivian said bitterly. "When you have billions of dollars, you can make sure the truth stays buried." Griffin looked at his sister, really looked at her. She was 2 years into her own journey of separating from their father's shadow, and it showed. She was angrier but also freer. She didn't carry the weight of trying to make everyone happy anymore. "What are we supposed to do with this?" Griffin asked. Vivian leaned forward, her eyes intense. "We find Tallulah Brown. We get her to tell us everything on record. We give Mom a way to tell her story without breaking the NDA through us. We're not bound by her legal agreements. Dad will hate us." Dad already hates me, Vivian said. I changed my name. I publicly said I didn't want to be associated with him. He told a reporter I was brainwashed by woke culture. So yeah, I'm ready to burn that bridge all the way down. Griffin thought about his Sunday dinners at Starbase, his father working on rocket designs while they ate takeout, the quiet moments where Elon would explain Mars colonization plans or show Griffin new Starship prototypes. Those moments felt real, like his father was actually there, actually present. I don't want to destroy him, Griffin said quietly. I just want to understand what happened. Those might be the same thing, Vivian replied. Understanding means accepting that Dad isn't the hero he pretends to be. Can you handle that? Griffin didn't answer immediately. He watched a young couple taking selfies by the mural, laughing and carefree. They probably thought the Musk family drama was just tabloid entertainment. They didn't know what it felt like to love someone who was brilliant and broken in equal measure. I need to talk to the triplets, Griffin finally said. Kai, Saxon, and Damien deserve to know what we're digging into before we go further. Vivian nodded. They're already suspicious. Saxon texted me last week asking if I knew anything about why Mom seemed scared lately. Scared? Griffin's protective instincts kicked in. What do you mean scared? He said she kept getting legal letters, thick envelopes from Dad's law firm, like they were reminding her to stay quiet about something. Griffin felt anger rising in his chest, hot and unfamiliar. He rarely got angry, but the image of his mother, alone in her Malibu house, receiving threatening letters from her ex-husband's lawyers, that crossed a line. Set up a meeting with the triplets, Griffin said. This weekend, somewhere Dad won't think to look for us. Vivian smiled, a real smile, not the bitter one she usually wore when talking about family. Welcome to the resistance, brother. Griffin pocketed the USB drive and stood up. I'm not resisting Dad. I'm looking for the truth. There's a difference. Is there? Vivian asked, but she was still smiling. As Griffin walked away from the cafe, his phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I know what you're looking for. The woman your mother mentioned. I can help you find her, but you need to stop digging publicly. People are watching. Meet me at Mount Bonnell tomorrow at sunset. Come alone, delete this message. Griffin stopped walking. His heart pounded in his chest. Someone knew. Someone had been watching them, listening to their conversations. He looked back at the cafe. Vivian was gone, already disappeared into the Austin crowds. Griffin read the message again, then deleted it as instructed. Tomorrow at sunset, Mount Bonnell, the hunt for Tallulah Brown had just become dangerous. And somehow Griffin knew that once he climbed that hill and met this mysterious contact, there would be no turning back. The truth he was chasing would chase him right back. He thought about his mother's letter, "Find Tallulah. She'll tell you why I couldn't fight anymore." "I'm coming, Mom," Griffin whispered to himself. "I'm going to find out what really happened, no matter what it costs." The Texas sun beat down on South Congress Avenue as Griffin walked toward his car, the USB drive burning like a secret in his pocket. Behind him, in the shadow of a coffee shop doorway, someone watched him leave and made a phone call. "He has the drive," the voice said, "and he's meeting the contact tomorrow. Should we intervene?" The response came through cold and clear. "No, let him dig. We need to know how much the mother told them. Follow him, report everything." The line went dead. Griffin Musk had no idea that his search for truth had just put his entire family in someone's crosshairs. Griffin didn't sleep that night. He sat in his small Austin apartment, staring at the USB drive Vivian had given him, wondering if he should plug it in or throw it away. The mysterious text message kept replaying in his mind. People are watching. Who? His father's security team, lawyers, someone else entirely. At 3 a.m., Griffin gave up on sleep. He made coffee, opened his laptop, and inserted the USB drive. The folder contained 12 files, each labeled with initials and dates. TB 2008, MK 2007, JL 2009. Anonymous testimonies from people who'd worked at Tesla and SpaceX during his parents' marriage. But one file sat separate from the others, larger than the rest. Its name made Griffin's hands freeze over the keyboard. Justine Testimony 2008 Confidential, MP3. His mother's voice, recorded 16 years ago. Griffin clicked play before he could change his mind. Static crackled through his headphones, then his mother's voice emerged, younger, raw with pain, nothing like the strong woman he knew today. My name is Justine Musk. It's June 15, 2008. I'm recording this in the house on Summer Road in Bel Air. In 3 months, my divorce will be final. I'm recording this because I need someone to know the truth, even if I can never speak it out loud. Griffin's throat tightened. He turned up the volume. Elon and I met when we were young. He was brilliant, intense, full of dreams about changing the world. I was a writer, someone who believed in stories and emotions and the messy human experience. We fell in love the way young people do, completely, recklessly. A pause. Griffin heard his mother take a shaky breath. Then we had Nevada, our first son, born in 2002, 10 perfect weeks, that's all we got. Griffin had heard about Nevada before, but only in brief mentions. The baby who died, the tragedy no one talked about. Nevada died of SIDS in Orange County, sudden infant death syndrome. One morning he was breathing and then he wasn't. The doctors couldn't explain it. They still can't. Justine's voice cracked. I held him at the hospital. His body was still warm, but he was gone. I screamed. I fell apart completely. I wanted to die with him. Griffin wiped his eyes. This was too intimate, too painful. Elon didn't cry, not once. Not at the hospital, not at the funeral, not in the weeks after. I thought maybe he was in shock. I waited for him to break down with me, but he never did. A long pause filled with background noise. The hum of air conditioning, the distant sound of Lowe's Angels traffic. 3 days after Nevada's funeral, Elon went back to work. He scheduled meetings, answered emails, acted like nothing had happened. When I asked him how he could function, he said, "Crying won't bring him back. Action might prevent this from happening to someone else." Griffin felt a chill run down his spine. That sounded exactly like his father, logical, solution-oriented, unable to sit with grief. I tried to be understanding. Everyone grieves differently, right? But weeks turned into months and Elon never mentioned Nevada's name. He forbade me from putting up photos of our son. He said it was dwelling on the past. Justine's voice grew harder, angrier. Then he presented me with the IVF paperwork. Genetic screening options, research papers about preventing SIDS through embryo selection. He had charts. Elon always has charts. He explained how we could create optimized children who wouldn't carry whatever genetic marker might have caused Nevada's death. Griffin paused the recording. His hands were shaking. He and Vivian were IVF babies, so were the triplets. He'd always known that, but he'd never questioned why. Now he understood they weren't just children, they were solutions to a problem. Replacements engineered to be better, safer, less likely to die. He pressed play again. I said yes because I was drowning, because I thought maybe a new baby would help us heal together. But the IVF process was clinical, cold. Elon treated it like a business project. He wanted to select for intelligence markers, for health optimization. He talked about our future children like they were products on an assembly line. A sob broke through Justine's words. Griffin and Vivian were born in 2004. Beautiful, perfect twins. I loved them instantly. But Elon, he was proud of them the way someone is proud of a successful experiment. He'd show them to colleagues and talk about their genetic advantages. He never just held them, enjoyed them, loved them without analyzing them. Griffin felt sick. Was that really how his father had seen him? as a genetic success story instead of a son. The twins weren't enough for Elon. In 2006, we did IVF again. Triplets this time, Kai, Saxon, and Damien. 3 more perfect, engineered children. Our house filled with babies, but Elon was never there. He was at Tesla, at SpaceX, building rockets and electric cars while I raised 5 children alone. Justine's voice dropped to almost a whisper. I could have lived with that. I could have accepted being a single parent married to a genius. But then came March 2008. Griffin leaned closer to his laptop, heart pounding. Tesla had just acquired the Fremont factory. Elon was there constantly, setting up production lines. I decided to surprise him one afternoon. I wanted to remind him we still existed, me and our 5 sons. A long, painful pause. I found him in one of the offices, with a woman, an actress named Tallulah Riley. Beautiful, young, untouched by grief or motherhood or any of the things that had aged me. Griffin remembered his mother's letter mentioning Tallulah Riley. This was the moment everything broke. They weren't just talking. Elon was looking at her the way he used to look at me, like she was fascinating, mysterious, worth his complete attention. He hadn't looked at me that way since Nevada died. Justine's voice turned bitter. I confronted him right there. The woman left quickly. Elon didn't apologize. He didn't deny it. He just stared at me with those cold eyes and said, "This doesn't concern you." Griffin's anger flared. His father had said that. After 16 years of marriage, 5 children together. I asked him how long it had been going on. He said that was irrelevant. I asked if he loved her. He said love was too ambiguous a term to be useful. That's when I knew I'd been married to someone who couldn't love anymore. Nevada's death had killed that part of him. The recording filled with the sound of Justine crying. Griffin wanted to reach through time and comfort his mother, to tell her she deserved better. But the affair wasn't even the worst part. A few days later, I went back to the factory looking for Elon. A female engineer stopped me in the parking lot. Her name was Tallulah Brown, coincidentally the same first name as Elon's girlfriend. Griffin sat up straighter. This was it, the woman from his mother's letter. Tallulah Brown was terrified. She said she'd witnessed Elon and Tallulah Riley together multiple times. She'd mentioned it to a colleague, just casual conversation. Within hours, Elon's lawyers contacted her. They accused her of planning to leak confidential information to the press. They threatened to sue her, to destroy her career, unless she signed an NDA and resigned immediately. Justine's voice shook with rage. I watched this innocent woman's life get dismantled because she'd seen something inconvenient. Elon didn't care that she'd done nothing wrong. He only cared about protecting his image, his company's, his perfect public story. Griffin felt his world tilting. His father, the man he'd defended, tried to understand, made excuses for, had destroyed someone's career just to hide an affair. That's when I realized who I'd married. Not a hero, not a visionary. A man so obsessed with his mission that he'd sacrifice anyone who got in his way, including me, including our children if we ever became inconvenient. The recording crackled with silence for a moment. I filed for divorce that week. Elon's lawyers responded with the most vicious legal assault I've ever experienced. They threatened to take the children. They dug up every personal detail of my life. They offered me money, so much money, if I'd sign an NDA and disappear quietly. Justine's voice hardened. I signed it, not because of the money, because I was terrified of what Elon would do if I fought him. He'd already destroyed Tallulah Brown's career for witnessing an affair. What would he do to me, the mother of his children, if I exposed the truth? Griffin heard his mother take a deep, shuddering breath. So I'm recording this, hiding it. Maybe someday my children will find it. Maybe they'll understand why I left without fighting harder, why I couldn't be the hero of this story. Another pause. I loved Elon. I still do in some broken way. But loving someone who can't love you back is like drowning slowly. You have to choose. Go under with them or swim away and save yourself. The recording filled with the sound of his mother crying deep, wrenching sobs that made Griffin's chest ache. I'm choosing to swim. I'm choosing my sanity, my truth, my survival. Even if it means my children grow up thinking I abandoned them. Even if the world thinks I'm bitter, jealous, crazy. Justine's voice steadied, filled with a fierce determination. But the truth is here, in this recording. And someday, when my children are ready, they'll know I left because staying would have killed me, and I loved them too much to let them watch me die. Static filled Griffin's headphones, then his mother's final words. Elon Musk is a genius. He might save humanity someday, but he couldn't save our son, and he couldn't save our marriage, because some problems can't be solved with engineering. Some problems require being human, and that's the one thing he could never figure out how to do. The recording ended. Griffin sat in silence, tears streaming down his face. Everything he'd believed about his parents' divorce, the careful story about different goals and growing apart, had been a lie. Not his mother's lie, his father's. His phone buzzed. A reminder, Mount Bonnell meeting at sunset. Griffin looked at the time, 6:15 a.m. The sun was just rising over Austin. He had 12 hours to decide what to do with this information. 12 hours to choose between protecting his father's image or honoring his mother's truth. But really, there was no choice at all. Griffin opened a new text to Vivian. I listened to the recording. We need to find Tallulah Brown, not just for Mom, for every person Dad has silenced. This ends now. Vivian's response came immediately. Welcome to the truth, brother. It hurts, doesn't it? Griffin typed back. Yeah, it really does. Griffin spent the morning preparing for the Mount Bonnell meeting. He told no one where he was going, not Vivian, not the triplets, not even his roommate who asked why he looked like he hadn't slept. The recording played on repeat in his mind, his mother's voice, the pain, the truth that had been locked away for 16 years. At 4 p.m., his phone rang. Elon Musk. Dad. Griffin stared at the screen, his finger hovering over the decline button. He hadn't spoken to his father since finding the letter 2 days ago. Every Sunday dinner, every tour of Starbase, every moment where he'd felt close to his dad, all of it felt contaminated now. He answered, Griffin, I need you at Starbase this weekend. His father's voice was clipped, distracted. Griffin heard machinery in the background, the constant hum of building the future. We're testing the new Raptor engines and I want you to see it. Bring your engineering notebooks. I can't this weekend, Dad. I have plans. A pause. Elon Musk didn't handle no well. What plans? Personal stuff, school project. School can wait. This is history, Griffin. We're talking about engines that will take humans to Mars. Your textbooks aren't going anywhere. Griffin felt the familiar pull, his father's gravity, the orbit he'd been trapped in his whole life. But his mother's voice echoed louder. He treats people like problems to solve. I really can't, Dad. Maybe next weekend. Another pause, longer this time. When Elon spoke again, his voice had shifted, sharper, more focused. Is your sister putting ideas in your head? I saw you met with Vivian yesterday. Joe's Coffee on South Congress. Griffin's blood went cold. His father was having him watched. How did you? I have security teams, Griffin, for good reason. People want to hurt me, hurt my companies. That includes making sure my children aren't being manipulated by people with agendas. Vivian's not manipulating me. She's my twin. She changed her name to spite me, Elon said flatly. She gave interviews calling me a terrible father. She's angry and confused, and she's trying to drag you down with her. Griffin's hand tightened around his phone. Or maybe she's telling the truth. Silence, complete, absolute silence. What did you just say? Elon's voice had gone dangerously quiet. Griffin's heart hammered, but he pushed forward. I found some of Mom's old things, letters from when you got divorced. There are things that don't match what you told us. Your mother is a novelist, Griffin. She creates fiction for a living. Don't confuse her stories with reality. So it's fiction that you had an affair. Fiction that you threatened an engineer's career to keep her quiet. The machinery sounds in the background stopped. Elon must have walked somewhere private. Who have you been talking to? His father's voice was ice. Does it matter? Is it true or not? Life is more complicated than true or false. You're 20 years old. You don't understand the pressures I was under building 2 companies from nothing, trying to revolutionize transportation and space travel. Your mother couldn't handle the mission. She wanted me to stop, to grieve endlessly over. Elon stopped himself, but Griffin knew what he'd almost said. Nevada, the son whose name their father never spoke. Over your dead son, Griffin finished. Over my brother who I never got to meet because you erased him from our family history. I didn't erase him, I survived him. There's a difference. By pretending he never existed. By creating replacement children through IVF so you could engineer better versions. Elon's breathing changed, faster, angrier. Who told you that? Your mother. She signed an agreement, Griffin. She's legally prohibited from discussing. She didn't tell me anything. I found it myself. I'm finding out a lot of things, Dad. And the more I learn, the less I recognize you. A long pause filled the line. When Elon spoke again, his voice carried a warning. Be very careful, Griffin. You're poking at things you don't understand. Things that happened before you were born. Things that involve legal agreements and people who would love nothing more than to destroy me using my own children. Or maybe, Griffin said quietly, I'm just trying to understand why my family is broken. Families are broken when people choose to break them, Elon said. Your mother made her choice. Your sister made hers. I thought you were smarter than that. The line went dead. Griffin stood in his apartment, shaking. His father had just threatened him, subtly, carefully, but it was there. Be very careful. The same kind of warning that had silenced Tallulah Brown. The same kind of pressure that had forced his mother to sign away her voice. A text came through from Vivian. Vivian, did Dad just call you? My security alert pinged. He's tracking our phones. Griffin's stomach dropped, of course. They were Elon Musk's children. They probably all had monitoring software built into their devices. Griffin, he knows we met yesterday. He's watching us. Vivian, let him watch. We're not doing anything illegal. We're just looking for the truth. Griffin, I'm meeting someone tonight. Someone who claims they can help find Tallulah Brown. Vivian, alone. That's stupid. I'm coming. Griffin, the message said come alone. Vivian, and you trust mysterious anonymous messages. Griffin, use your brain. This could be Dad's people trying to scare you off. Griffin hadn't considered that. What if the whole thing was a trap? A way to find out how much he knew who he talked to. Griffin, fine. Meet me at Mount Bonnell, 7 p.m., but stay hidden until I know it's safe. Vivian, deal. And Griffin, I'm proud of you for finally asking the hard questions. Griffin pocketed his phone and looked around his apartment. Empty pizza boxes, engineering textbooks, a photo of him and his brothers at Starbase from last Christmas. In the picture, Elon stood in the center, one hand on Saxon's shoulder, looking at the camera like a man who'd conquered the world. But Griffin saw something different now. He saw a man so afraid of his own emotions that he'd built walls around his heart and called them companies. Walls named Tesla and SpaceX and Neuralink. Walls high enough to keep grief out, but also love, connection, the messy human experience his mother had mentioned in the recording. Griffin grabbed his jacket and headed for the door. Mount Bonnell was a 20-minute drive from his apartment. He wanted to get there early, scope out the location, make sure he wasn't walking into something dangerous. As he drove through Austin traffic, his mind drifted to his brothers, Kai, Saxon, and Damien. The triplets were 18 now, about to graduate high school. They'd been only 2 years old when the divorce happened. They barely remembered their parents being together. Kai was the athlete, always trying to prove himself physically. Saxon was the sensitive one, the writer like their mother. Damien was the quiet observer, absorbing everything and saying little. Griffin had tried to be a good older brother to shield them from the worst of the family drama. But maybe that had been wrong. Maybe they deserved to know the truth too. He pulled over and sent a group text. Griffin, emergency family meeting. This weekend, Austin, something important to discuss about mom and dad's divorce. Kai, what happened? Saxon, did you find something? Damien, I knew something was going on. Mom's been getting legal letters again. Griffin, just trust me, can you all get here by Friday night? Kai, we have school. Saxon, screw school, this sounds serious. Damien, I'll tell Mom we're visiting you for the weekend. She won't ask questions. Griffin, thank you. And guys, this is going to be hard to hear, but you deserve to know the truth. Griffin put his phone away and continued driving. The sun was starting to set, painting the Texas sky in brilliant oranges and purples, beautiful and terrible at the same time, like truth itself. Mount Bonnell rose ahead, a limestone cliff overlooking Lake Austin. Griffin had climbed these stairs dozens of times as a student, usually with friends, usually drunk on cheap beer and the freedom of being young. Tonight felt different. Tonight felt like standing at the edge of something that would change everything. He parked in the small lot at the base of the hill. A few other cars sat scattered around, tourists probably trying to catch the sunset view. Griffin spotted Vivian's beat-up Honda Civic parked in the shadows. She was here already, watching. Griffin started climbing the 102 stone steps to the summit. His legs burned, but he kept moving. Higher and higher, leaving the familiar world below. At the top, a handful of people stood at the edge, taking photos of the view. Lake Austin sparkled below, surrounded by expensive houses and boat docks. The city stretched beyond, growing and changing, full of people living normal lives. Griffin stood apart from the tourists, checking his phone. 7:02 p.m. The mysterious contact was late. Then a voice behind him, "You came alone. That was stupid." Griffin spun around. A woman in her late 30s stood a few feet away, wearing sunglasses despite the fading light. She was thin, nervous, constantly glancing around like she expected someone to jump out at her. "Who are you?" Griffin asked. "Someone who used to work for your father. Someone who watched good people get destroyed for telling the truth." She pulled an envelope from her jacket. "I'm giving you this because I owe your mother a debt. She helped me when your father tried to ruin me." Griffin's pulse quickened. "You're Tallulah Brown." The woman flinched at the name. "I don't use that name anymore. I legally changed it years ago. But yes, I was Tallulah Brown. I witnessed things at the Fremont factory in 2008, things that cost me everything." She held out the envelope. Griffin reached for it, but she pulled it back. "Before I give you this, you need to understand something. Your father is powerful, more powerful than you realize. He has lawyers, security teams, contacts everywhere. If you pursue this, he will come after you. Not violently. He's too smart for that. But he'll isolate you, cut you off, make everyone think you're crazy or manipulated." "I don't care," Griffin said. "I need to know what really happened." Tallulah studied him for a long moment, then handed over the envelope. "Inside is my testimony, the real story of March 2008. Everything I saw, everything your father's lawyers made me bury. I also included contact information for 2 other people who witnessed things, a Tesla executive and a SpaceX engineer. They might talk to you, they might not, but they know the truth." "Why now?" Griffin asked. "Why come forward after 16 years?" Tallulah's voice cracked. "Because I'm dying, stage 4 cancer, 6 months, maybe less. And I'm tired of carrying secrets for men who never cared about the damage they caused." She turned to leave, then stopped. Your mother is a good person, Griffin. She tried to do right by you kids. Don't let your father rewrite that history. Wait, Griffin started, but Tallulah was already descending the stairs, disappearing into the gathering darkness. Griffin looked down at the envelope in his hands. Before he could open it, Vivian appeared from behind a cluster of tourists. "Did you see her face?" Vivian asked urgently. "Did she give her real name?" "No, but she said she's dying, cancer. That's why she's talking now." Vivian's expression softened. People tell the truth when they have nothing left to lose. Griffin opened the envelope. Inside were several pages of typed testimony, dates and details and names. At the bottom, a handwritten note. "Your father didn't just have an affair. He fell in love with Tallulah Riley while your mother was still grieving your brother. He brought his girlfriend to the factory where employees could see them together. When I mentioned it to a colleague, concerned about professionalism, your father's lawyers came after me within hours. They fabricated evidence of corporate espionage. They threatened to make sure I never worked in engineering again. Your mother found out and tried to help me, using her own money to settle my legal fees. She did it anonymously, but I found out later. That's the kind of person she is. Your father, he's the kind of person who destroys lives to protect his image. Be careful, Griffin. He'll do the same to you if you threaten what he's built." Griffin's hands shook as he read the words again. Vivian read over his shoulder, her jaw clenched. Dad had her life ruined for gossip, for seeing him with his girlfriend. That's who he is. Griffin looked out over Austin, the city lights beginning to glow in the dusk. Somewhere down there, his father was building rockets, planning Mars missions, tweeting about saving humanity. But he couldn't save his own family. He couldn't even be honest with his own children. "I need to confront him," Griffin said. "Face to face, at Starbase, tonight." Vivian grabbed his arm. "That's exactly what he wants. To get you alone where he can manipulate you, make you doubt everything, turn you against Mom." "I'm not doubting Mom anymore," Griffin said firmly. "I just need to hear him admit it, all of it. The affair, the threats, the way he treated her after Nevada died. I need to look him in the eye and ask him why." Vivian studied her twin brother's face. They'd shared a womb, shared a childhood, shared the weight of being Elon Musk's children. But somewhere along the way, they'd split, Griffin trying to understand their father, Vivian trying to escape him. Now, finally, they were on the same side. "If you're going to Starbase," Vivian said, "I'm coming with you. He won't talk if you're there, you know that. Then I'll wait outside, but I'm not letting you face him alone." She pulled out her phone. "And I'm calling the triplets. If we're doing this, if we're finally confronting Dad with the truth, we do it together, all of us." Griffin nodded. The Musk children united for the first time in years. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Turn around." Griffin spun. Standing at the top of the stairs, backlit by the dying sun, was a man in a dark suit. Security, his father's security. "Mr. Musk requests your presence at Starbase immediately," the man said. "He's sending a helicopter to pick you up. It lands in 10 minutes at the helipad near campus." Vivian stepped closer to Griffin. "He can't force you to go." "Your father simply wants to talk," the security guard said calmly. "He knows you have questions. He's ready to answer them, but it needs to be tonight, now." Griffin looked at Vivian, then at the envelope in his hand, then at the security guard. His father knew everything. The meeting with Vivian, the USB drive, Tallulah Brown's testimony. He'd probably known since the beginning. And now he was calling Griffin to Starbase, to the place where dreams of Mars were built, where the future was engineered. The place where Elon Musk was most powerful, most in control. "Tell him I'll be there," Griffin said. "Griffin, no," Vivian started. "I have to," Griffin interrupted. "This ends tonight, one way or another." The security guard nodded and spoke into his radio. "Target is compliant. Prepare for extraction. Vivian grabbed Griffin's hand. Don't let him make you forget what you learned. Don't let him rewrite the truth. I won't, Griffin promised. But as the distant sound of helicopter blades began to echo across the Austin hills, Griffin wondered if he was strong enough to face the man who'd built empires but couldn't admit he'd broken his family. His phone buzzed one more time. A text from Elon. Come alone, we need to talk about your mother's lies. Griffin typed back with shaking fingers. About your lies, Dad. We're finally going to talk about your lies. The helicopter appeared over the horizon, sleek and black, descending toward them like a machine from the future. Griffin Musk was about to fly into the heart of his father's kingdom, and he had no idea if he'd come back the same person. The helicopter cut through the darkness, flying southeast toward the Texas coast. Griffin sat alone in the leather seat, noise-canceling headphones blocking out the rotor's thunder. Below, Austin's lights faded into rural darkness. Then the shimmer of the Gulf of Mexico appeared on the horizon. Starbase, Boca Chica, his father's kingdom. Griffin had been here dozens of times for launches, tours, Sunday dinners in the small house Elon kept on the property. But tonight felt different. Tonight he wasn't coming as the obedient son. He was coming with questions that had teeth. The pilot's voice crackled through the headphones. Landing in 2 minutes, Mr. Musk. Griffin looked out the window. Starbase sprawled below like a sci-fi movie set, the massive Starship rocket standing on the launch pad, floodlights illuminating it against the night sky. Support buildings, fuel tanks, construction equipment everywhere. And in the distance, the modest house where his father sometimes slept between 18-hour work sessions. The helicopter touched down on the private helipad. Griffin's legs felt unsteady as he stepped onto the concrete. The Gulf wind hit him immediately, salt air and the smell of rocket fuel. A different security guard waited by a Tesla Cybertruck. Mr. Musk is in the Starship assembly building. This way. They drove in silence past the construction zones. Workers in hard hats moved like ants even at 8 p.m., welding, testing, building the future. His father's future. The dream of Mars, of making humanity multiplanetary, of ensuring the survival of consciousness in the universe. Noble goals. World-changing goals. But what about the people he destroyed along the way? The Cybertruck stopped outside the massive assembly building, a structure so large it could hold the Starship rocket standing upright. The guard opened Griffin's door. He's waiting inside. 3rd floor, observation deck. Griffin walked into the building alone. His footsteps echoed on the metal stairs as he climbed. Around him, the Starship loomed, gleaming stainless steel, 400 feet tall, designed to carry humans to another planet. His father's masterpiece. On the 3rd floor observation deck, Elon Musk stood with his back to the stairs, looking down at the rocket through the glass. He wore his usual work clothes, black t-shirt, jeans, boots. His shoulders were tense. He didn't turn around when Griffin reached the top of the stairs. Starship Block 2, Elon said, gesturing at the rocket. Improved heat shielding, more efficient engines, increased payload capacity. We launch it next month. If it works, we're one step closer to Mars. Griffin stopped a few feet behind his father. I didn't come here to talk about rockets, Dad. I know why you came. Elon finally turned around. His face looked older than Griffin remembered, tired, worn, but still sharp, still calculating. You've been listening to your mother's stories, looking for villains in old history. I've been looking for the truth. Elon's jaw tightened. Truth is contextual, Griffin. What seemed simple to you at 20 was impossibly complex when I lived it. Then help me understand, Griffin said, pulling out Tallulah Brown's testimony. Explain this. Explain how you threatened an engineer's career for witnessing your affair. Explain how you made Mom sign an NDA so she couldn't tell us the real story. Explain Nevada. At his dead brother's name, Elon flinched, barely noticeable, but Griffin caught it. "Don't," Elon said quietly. "Don't use your brother's name like a weapon." "You never use it at all," Griffin shot back. "None of us even knew he existed until we were old enough to Google you. You erased him from our family." "I didn't erase him." Elon's voice rose, echoing through the massive building. "I survived him. There's a difference." "How?" "By pretending he never existed. By immediately creating replacement children through IVF." Elon's eyes flashed dangerously. "Is that what your mother told you? That you were replacements?" "She didn't have to tell me. It's obvious, Dad. Nevada dies, 3 months later you're pushing IVF. You and Vivian, then the triplets. 7 children total, all engineered, all optimized. You couldn't save Nevada, so you built better versions." Elon turned back to the rocket, his hands gripping the observation railing. When he spoke, his voice was controlled, too controlled. "I'm going to tell you something I've never told anyone, about the night Nevada died." Griffin's anger faltered. This was it, the moment his father had avoided for 22 years. "We were in Orange County," Elon began. "Nevada was 10 weeks old, perfect, healthy. All his checkups had been fine. Your mother put him down for a nap that afternoon. Normal routine. An hour later, she went to check on him." Elon's knuckles were white on the railing. "She screamed. I was in my office working. I was always working, and I heard her scream. I ran to the nursery. Nevada was blue, not breathing. I called 911 while your mother tried CPR. I counted the compressions, 30 to 2, exactly like they teach you. But I knew. I'm not stupid, Griffin. I knew he was already gone." Griffin felt tears burning his eyes, but he stayed silent. The ambulance came. They worked on him for 40 minutes at the hospital. I watched the whole thing. The doctors, the machines, the desperate attempts to restart a heart that had stopped for no reason. No warning, no explanation, just stopped. Elon's voice cracked, just slightly, but it was there. "I held him while he died. I felt his heartbeat stop under my hand, and the only thought in my head was, I built a payment system that processes billions of transactions. I'm building rockets to Mars, but I can't fix this. I can't save my own son." Griffin's throat was so tight he could barely breathe. "Your mother wanted to grieve together. She wanted to cry, to talk about him, to process the loss. But every time I tried, I felt myself drowning. The pain was going to destroy me, Griffin. I could feel it, like drowning in black water, so I made a choice." Elon finally looked at Griffin, and for the first time ever, Griffin saw real emotion in his father's eyes. Raw, terrifying emotion. "I chose to solve it instead of feel it. I researched SIDS. I found studies on genetic screening, IVF, embryo selection. I thought, if I can't change what happened, I can prevent it from happening again. I can use science to defeat death." "But it wasn't about science," Griffin said quietly. "It was about running away from grief." "Maybe," Elon admitted. "Probably, but it's how I survived. Action over emotion, building over breaking. And yes, you and Vivian were created through IVF with genetic screening. So were your brothers, but you weren't replacements, Griffin. You were proof that life wins, that love wins, even when death tries to take it away." Griffin shook his head. "You call it love, but you were never there. Mom raised us alone while you built companies." "I was building a future," Elon's intensity returned. "For you, for humanity. Every rocket launch, every electric car, every innovation. It's all about making sure human consciousness survives, making sure what happened to Nevada doesn't happen to our species." "That's insane, Dad. Nevada died of SIDS. That has nothing to do with Mars colonization." Elon stared at him like he was speaking a foreign language. "It has everything to do with it. Death wins if humanity stays on one planet. One asteroid, one nuclear war, one pandemic, we're gone. But if we spread to Mars, to other solar systems, then consciousness survives. Then Nevada's death means something. Then. Nevada's death already meant something, Griffin shouted. He was your son. He lived for 10 weeks. That mattered. He mattered. Not as a catalyst for your Mars obsession, but as a person who was loved. Elon went completely still. Mom knew that, Griffin continued, his voice shaking. She wanted to honor Nevada's memory by feeling the grief, by acknowledging his existence. But you turned him into a problem to be solved. Just like you turned your marriage into a problem to be solved when it got messy. Your mother couldn't handle the mission, Elon said flatly. She wanted me to stop, to be normal, to prioritize our relationship over changing the world. I couldn't do that. I still can't. So you had an affair, Griffin said, with Tallulah Riley, while Mom was still grieving Nevada, while she was raising your 5 children alone. Elon's expression hardened. That's an oversimplification. Then explain it. Tell me your version. Elon walked to the edge of the observation deck, looking down at the workers below. I met Tallulah Riley in late 2007. She was intelligent, curious about technology, fascinated by what I was building. She saw me as the person I was trying to become, not the person I'd failed to be with your mother. A person who wasn't a grieving father, Griffin asked bitterly. A person who was moving forward, Elon corrected. Your mother was stuck in 2002, endlessly circling Nevada's death. I needed someone who could see the future with me. So you started an affair. I fell in love, Elon said simply. For the first time since Nevada died, I felt something other than pain and drive. Tallulah made me remember what it was like to be human, not just a machine building other machines. Griffin felt sick. His father was describing falling in love with another woman while still married to his mother, and he sounded wistful, like it was a fond memory instead of a betrayal. What about Tallulah Brown? Griffin pressed. The engineer who witnessed you and Riley together at Fremont. Elon's expression went cold. That was unfortunate. Unfortunate. Dad, you destroyed her career. I protected my companies, Elon said firmly. Tallulah Brown was gossiping about my personal life to colleagues. That creates a hostile work environment, damages morale, and opens Tesla to potential lawsuits. I had my legal team handle it appropriately. By falsely accusing her of corporate espionage. By threatening to blacklist her from the entire industry. She signed an NDA and received substantial compensation, Elon said. More than fair. Griffin stared at his father, finally seeing him clearly. Not a villain, not a hero, just a man so completely convinced of his own importance that he justified any collateral damage as necessary for the mission. Mom tried to help her, Griffin said. Used her own money to pay Tallulah Brown's legal fees, because Mom actually cared about the innocent people you hurt. Elon turned sharply. Your mother told you that. Tallulah Brown told me. Tonight, she's dying, Dad, cancer. She gave me her testimony because she's tired of carrying your secrets. For the first time, Elon looked genuinely surprised. She's dying. 6 months, maybe less. Elon was quiet for a long moment. I'm sorry to hear that. Are you? Griffin challenged. Are you actually sorry? Or are you just calculating whether a dying woman's testimony can hurt your reputation? Both things can be true, Elon said. I'm capable of empathy, Griffin, even if you don't believe it. I just prioritize differently than most people. You prioritize missions over people. I prioritize humanity's survival over individual comfort, Elon corrected. Including my own comfort, including yours. Griffin pulled out his phone, opened the audio file of his mother's testimony. "Listen to this. Then tell me you prioritized right." He hit play. Justine's voice filled the space between them, young, broken, painfully honest. Elon didn't cry, not once. He said crying was not productive. He scheduled a meeting for the afternoon Nevada died. Elon's face went pale, but he didn't look away. The IVF decision wasn't mutual. Elon presented it as the logical solution to prevent another Sid's death through genetic screening. Elon's jaw clenched. I felt like a biological vessel for Elon's vision of populating Mars with Musk DNA. "Turn it off," Elon said quietly. "No," Griffin said. "You need to hear this. You need to hear what you did to her." At a Tesla event in 2007, Elon publicly corrected me about a technical detail, then told a reporter, "I am the alpha in this relationship." "I was joking," Elon said, but his voice had no conviction. That's when I knew I'd been married to someone who couldn't love anymore. Nevada's death had killed that part of him. Griffin stopped the recording. Silence filled the observation deck, broken only by the distant sound of welding from the factory floor below. "Is that really how she felt?" Elon asked finally. His voice sounded small, almost vulnerable, like I couldn't love. "Yes," Griffin said. "And she was right, wasn't she? You fell in love with Tallulah Riley. You've had relationships with other women, Grimes, Siobhan Zillies. You've had 11 children with 3 different women, but you couldn't love Mom, not after Nevada." Elon sank into a chair near the observation window, suddenly looking every one of his 50-plus years. "I saw a therapist once, after my second divorce from Tallulah Riley. He said I have an inability to sit with discomfort, that I treat human relationships like engineering problems. If it's broken, replace it or optimize it." Griffin sat down across from his father. "That's exactly what you did. Marriage broken. Get a new wife. Wife wants you to be emotionally present. Get a different wife who won't make those demands." "It's not that simple," Elon said, but he sounded exhausted. "Then explain it to me. Make me understand how the man who wants to save humanity can't figure out how to love his own family." Elon leaned back, staring up at the ceiling. "When Nevada died, something broke in me. Not just my heart, that's too poetic. Something fundamental, the belief that I could control outcomes through intelligence and effort. I'd never failed at anything important before. School, businesses, innovations, I could figure them out. But Nevada, I did everything right. Good prenatal care, safe sleeping position, following every guideline, and he still died." Griffin stayed quiet, letting his father talk. "So I decided the problem was chance, random probability. If I could eliminate randomness through genetic screening, through optimizing every variable, I could prevent that kind of loss from ever happening again. Your mother called it playing God. I called it responsible parenting." "It was running away," Griffin said gently. "From grief. From the reality that some things can't be controlled or fixed." "Maybe," Elon admitted. "But running away kept me functional, kept me building. And ultimately, isn't that more important? I've created companies worth billions, technologies that are changing the world. If the cost of that was one failed marriage and some hurt feelings—" "Some hurt feelings," Griffin interrupted. "Dad, you traumatized Mom so badly she couldn't speak the truth for 16 years. You've hurt me, Vivian, the triplets. We all carry the weight of trying to be good enough for a father who sees us as genetic experiments instead of children." Elon's expression cracked, just for a moment, but Griffin saw it. Pain. Real, unprocessed pain that had been buried under 2 decades of rocket launches and product announcements. "I don't want to hurt you," Elon said quietly. "Any of you. I'm trying to build a future where humanity survives, where consciousness continues, where death doesn't win. Can't you see? Everything I do is about making sure what happened to Nevada never happens to humanity." "But Dad," Griffin said, tears finally spilling down his cheeks, "humanity isn't an abstract concept. It's individuals, it's Mom, it's me and Vivian and the triplets and all your other children. And we needed you, not your rockets, not your billions, you." Elon stared at his son, and for the first time in Griffin's entire life, he saw his father's eyes fill with tears. "I don't know how to be what you need," Elon whispered. "I've spent 20 years building walls between me and grief. I don't know how to tear them down now." Griffin reached across and took his father's hand. "Start by telling the truth. Let Mom out of the NDA. Let her tell her story. Let us understand what really happened instead of living with half-truths and legal silences." Elon pulled his hand back. "If I do that, it damages my reputation, my companies, everything I've built." "So your reputation matters more than your family." "My reputation is my company's. If people stop believing in me in the mission, then everything collapses. The Mars plan, sustainable energy, all of it." Griffin stood up, suddenly exhausted. "Then I guess I have my answer. You'll sacrifice anything for the mission, even us." "Griffin," Elon started. "No," Griffin said firmly. "I came here hoping you'd admit you were wrong, that you'd choose your children over your image, but you can't. You won't. Because in your mind, you are right. You've convinced yourself that abandoning Mom, traumatizing your kids, silencing witnesses, it's all justified because you're saving humanity." "I am saving humanity," Elon stood, his intensity returning. "In 1,000 years, no one will remember your mother's hurt feelings or your childhood pain, but they'll remember that I made humanity multiplanetary, that I gave consciousness a chance to survive." Griffin looked at his father, brilliant, driven, broken beyond repair. "In 1,000 years," Griffin said quietly, "I hope someone remembers that you had a son named Nevada who lived for 10 weeks, that he was loved, that he mattered, not as motivation for Mars colonization, but as a person who existed and deserved to be remembered." Griffin turned toward the stairs. "Where are you going?" Elon asked. "Back to Austin, back to my brothers and sister, back to the family you abandoned for rockets." "I didn't abandon." "Yes, you did, Dad. You just did it slowly enough that you convinced yourself you hadn't." Griffin descended the stairs, leaving his father alone with the Starship rocket. Behind him, he heard Elon call out one last time. "I loved your brother. Every child I've had since has been because I loved him." Griffin stopped on the stairs but didn't turn around. "If you loved him," he said, his voice echoing through the building, "you would have grieved him. Instead, you tried to engineer your way around grief. And that's why Mom left. That's why Vivian changed her name. That's why we're all broken." Griffin continued down the stairs and out into the Texas night. The helicopter was waiting, blades already spinning. As they lifted off, Griffin looked back at the assembly building. Through the windows, he could see his father's silhouette, small and alone against the massive rocket, building the future while unable to face the past. Griffin pulled out his phone and texted Vivian. Griffin, he admitted it all, the affair, the control, everything, but he still thinks he's right. He can't see past his mission long enough to be human. Vivian, did you really think he'd change? Griffin, I hoped. I'm done hoping now. Vivian, good. Now we tell our story, the real one, together. Griffin looked out at the Gulf Coast passing below, the lights of civilization scattered across the darkness. His father wanted to save humanity by sending it to Mars. But Griffin had just learned that some people needed to be saved from themselves first, and he had no idea if Elon Musk would ever realize that before it was too late. The helicopter dropped Griffin back in Austin at midnight. Vivian was waiting in the parking lot, leaning against her Honda Civic, arms crossed. When Griffin stepped off the helipad, she didn't say anything, just pulled him into a tight hug. "I heard everything," she said into his shoulder. "I hacked into your phone's mic. I needed to know you were safe." Griffin should have been angry about the invasion of privacy, but he just felt relieved. "Then he's never going to change." "I tried to tell you." Vivian pulled back, studying his face. "But you needed to see it yourself, to hear him justify everything and still believe he's the hero." Griffin's phone buzzed. A text from Saxon, one of the triplets. "Saxon, we're here, at your apartment, all three of us. We drove straight from California. Mom thinks we're at a college visit." Griffin looked at Vivian. "They came." "Of course they came," Vivian said. "They're Musks. We're all desperate to understand why our family is broken." 20 minutes later, Griffin and Vivian walked into Griffin's small apartment near UT Austin campus. Kai, Saxon, and Damien sat on the worn couch, looking older than their 18 years. They'd always been a unit, the triplets, born together, navigating life as a set. But tonight they looked separate, individual, each processing their own pain. Kai stood first. He was the tallest, athletic, with their father's sharp features. "You look like hell, Griffin." "I just came from Starbase, from talking to Dad." Saxon, the sensitive one with longer hair and their mother's eyes, leaned forward. And he admitted everything. The affair, threatening Tallulah Brown's career, making Mom sign an NDA, all of it. Damien, the quiet observer, spoke up, but he still thinks he was right. It wasn't a question. Damien always understood people better than anyone gave him credit for. "Yes," Griffin confirmed. "He thinks his mission justifies everything. The pain, the betrayal, the destroyed lives. As long as humanity gets to Mars, it's all worth it." Kai punched the couch cushion. "That's insane." "That's Dad," Vivian said, closing the apartment door behind her. "Welcome to the reality Saxon and I have been living with for years." The triplets looked at each other, that silent communication they'd perfected since birth. "We need to tell you something," Saxon said finally. "Something we found. That's why we drove through the night to get here." Griffin sat down on the floor across from them. Vivian perched on the arm of the couch. Damien pulled out his phone and opened a photo. 2 weeks ago, Mom got upset, like really upset. She was on the phone with someone crying, saying she couldn't talk about it, that she'd signed papers. When she hung up, Saxon asked what was wrong. Saxon picked up the story. She said Dad's lawyers had sent her another reminder about the NDA. Apparently, someone had been asking questions about the divorce. She was scared Dad would think she'd broken the agreement. "That was probably me," Griffin said. "Or Vivian. We've been digging into what happened." "We figured," Kai said. "But here's the thing. After Mom went to bed that night, we went through her office. We found a safety deposit box key hidden in her desk. Bank of America, Beverly Hills branch." Griffin's pulse quickened. "Did you open it?" "Yesterday," Damien said. "We told the bank we were getting something for Mom. They let us in." Saxon swiped through photos on Damien's phone. Legal documents, medical records, handwritten letters. "There's a lot in there, but the most important thing is this." He stopped on a photo of a legal document. Griffin leaned closer to read it. "Confidential settlement agreement between Elon Musk / Justine Musk regarding Tesla Motors employee incident date, April 2008. "What is this?" Griffin asked. "Read the details," Saxon said. Griffin zoomed in on the text. His stomach dropped as he read. Party A, Elon Musk, agrees to pay Party B, Justine Musk, the sum of $250,000 to cover legal expenses related to the defense of former Tesla employee Tallulah Brown, alias, who was wrongfully accused of corporate espionage in March 2008. Party B agrees not to disclose the source of funding to any third party, including Ms. Brown herself, under penalty of breach of primary NDA. Griffin looked up at his brothers. Mom used Dad's money to help Tallulah Brown. How does that work? Keep reading, Kai said. Griffin continued. Party A acknowledges that the accusations against Ms. Brown were strategically motivated rather than evidence-based. Party A agrees to this settlement to avoid further marital discord and potential public exposure of extramarital relationship with T. Riley. This agreement is separate from, and in addition to primary divorce settlement NDA. Dad paid Mom to help the woman he destroyed, Vivian said slowly, to keep her quiet about the affair. It gets worse, Damien said. He pulled out a folder with printed documents. We also found medical records. Mom was hospitalized in April 2008. The diagnosis was severe depression and anxiety. She was there for 3 days. Saxon's voice cracked. She had a breakdown right after she found out about the affair and watched Dad destroy Tallulah Brown. She completely fell apart. Griffin took the medical records with shaking hands. The discharge notes were clinical and cold. Patient presented with acute psychological distress following marital trauma. Exhibits symptoms of PTSD, severe anxiety, and major depressive episode. Recommend ongoing therapy and temporary separation from stressor spouse. We were 4 years old, Griffin said quietly, looking at Vivian. You and me. We were 4 when Mom was hospitalized. I don't remember, Vivian whispered. We were 2, Kai said, gesturing to himself and his brothers. We don't remember any of it, but it explains a lot, doesn't it? Why Mom always seems sad. Why she never talks about Dad without looking like she's in pain. Damien pulled out another document. There's more. We found records of other settlements, other NDAs. Dad has paid at least 7 different people connected to Tesla and SpaceX to stay quiet about various things between 2006 and 2012. 7, Griffin felt sick. Engineers, assistants, even a journalist who was investigating workplace conditions at Tesla. All of them got money and NDAs. All of them disappeared from public view. Saxon's anger was barely contained. Our father built his empire by silencing anyone who threatened his image, and Mom watched it happen. She saw the pattern. That's why she left, not just because of the affair, but because she realized Dad would destroy anyone, including his own family, to protect his mission. Vivian stood up and paced. We need to go public with this, all of it. The medical records, the settlements, the NDAs. The world needs to know who Elon Musk really is. We can't, Damien said. That's the problem. Mom is still bound by her NDA. If this information gets out and they trace it to her, she loses everything, custody rights, financial support, everything Dad promised in the divorce. But we're not bound by the NDA, Kai argued. We're his children, we can speak. Can we? Saxon asked. Legally, maybe, but what happens to Mom when we do? What happens to us? The room fell silent. They were all thinking the same thing. Elon Musk had unlimited resources, the best lawyers money could buy, and a willingness to crush anyone who threatened him. Griffin thought about his father alone in the Starbase assembly building, convinced his mission justified everything. There's someone we need to talk to, Griffin said finally. Someone who witnessed everything and is willing to speak because she's dying. Tallulah Brown. She gave me her testimony, but it's not enough. We need her to go on record fully, with her real name and current identity. Where is she? Vivian asked. Toronto. She changed her name years ago, but she's there, dying of cancer. She said she's tired of carrying secrets for men who never cared about the damage they caused. Kai stood up, all 6'2" of him radiating determination. Then we go to Toronto, all of us. We get her full testimony, we document everything, and then we decide together what to do with it. Dad will find out, Damien warned. He's probably tracking our phones right now. Let him find out, Saxon said. I'm tired of being scared of our own father, tired of living in the shadow of his ego. Griffin looked at his 4 siblings, twins and triplets, all of them created through IVF after Nevada's death, all of them carrying the weight of being Elon Musk's children. If we do this, Griffin said, there's no going back. Dad will see it as betrayal. He'll cut us off, come after us legally, turn the public against us. We'll be painted as spoiled rich kids biting the hand that feeds us. Good, Vivian said. Let them think that we know the truth, and that's what matters. The triplets nodded in unison, that eerie synchronization they'd never quite lost. When do we leave for Toronto? Kai asked. Griffin pulled out his phone to book flights, then stopped. Wait, we need to tell Mom first. She deserves to know what we're doing. This affects her more than anyone. I'll call her, Saxon said. He was the closest to Justine, the one who'd inherited her love of writing and poetry. He stepped into Griffin's bedroom for privacy. While they waited, Damien showed Griffin more photos from the safety deposit box. Letters Justine had written but never sent. Diary entries from 2008. Draft manuscripts of a book she'd started writing about the marriage but abandoned. One entry stopped Griffin cold. June 2008. The hardest part isn't that Elon fell in love with someone else. It's that I finally understand. He never really loved me, not the way I loved him. I was a partner in his mission, a vessel for his genetic legacy, a supporting character in his hero story, but I was never the point. The mission was always the point, and I can't live like that anymore. I can't teach my sons that love means erasing yourself for someone else's dreams. Griffin's hands shook as he read. His mother had known. Even back then, she'd seen clearly what took him 20 years to understand. Saxon emerged from the bedroom, face pale. Mom knows something's happening. She won't say what, but she got another legal letter today. From Dad's firm. It's not a reminder about the NDA, it's a threat. They somehow know we've been digging into the past. They're warning her that if any confidential information becomes public, they'll pursue full legal action. How do they know? Vivian demanded. Dad's security has been watching us, Griffin said. Remember, he knew we met at the coffee shop. He probably knows about the safety deposit box too. So he's preemptively threatening Mom, Kai said, his jaw clenched. Before we even do anything, that's who he is. That's what he does. Damien's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen and his expression went cold. Speak of the devil. Group text to all of us from Dad. Griffin's phone buzzed a second later. They all read the message. Elon, I know what you're planning. Toronto trip. Testimony from TB. Public exposure. I'm asking you as your father to stop. This will hurt your mother more than it hurts me. My lawyers will have no choice but to enforce the NDA. Think about what you're doing to her. We can talk about this like a family. Come to Starbase tomorrow, all of you. Let's find a solution together. He's trying to manipulate us, Vivian said, making it about protecting Mom when really he's protecting himself. But he's not wrong, Damien said quietly. If we go public, Mom gets caught in the legal crossfire. The NDA doesn't have an exception for unless your children expose everything. Griffin stared at his father's message. Even now, even after everything, Elon was playing chess while they were playing checkers. He'd anticipated their moves, cornered them legally, and framed himself as the reasonable one trying to protect family privacy. We need to talk to Mom, Griffin decided. Face to face. Tonight. Before we make any decisions, she needs to be part of this conversation. She's in Malibu, Saxon said. 4-hour drive. Then we drive, Kai said. All 5 of us, right now. They piled into Kai's SUV. The triplets had driven it from California. As they headed west on I-10, leaving Austin behind, Griffin thought about his father's message. We can talk about this like a family, but they'd never really been a family, had they? They'd been a collection of individuals orbiting Elon's gravitational pull, trying not to get too close or drift too far away. Maybe it was time to break orbit entirely. What if we call his bluff? Vivian said from the front seat. What if we tell Dad we'll keep quiet, but only if he releases Mom from the NDA completely? Lets her tell her story on her own terms. He'll never agree to that, Saxon said. It damages his reputation too much. Then he'll choose his reputation over his family, Griffin said. Again, and we'll have our answer about what we mean to him. The Texas landscape rolled past in darkness. Somewhere ahead, their mother was probably sitting alone in her Malibu house, worried about the legal letters, scared of what her children were uncovering. Somewhere behind them, their father was probably in his Starbase office, calculating his next move, treating his own children like a PR problem to be managed. And somewhere in Toronto, a dying woman named Tallulah Brown was carrying the truth that could finally set them all free, or destroy what was left of their family completely. I need to know something, Damien said into the silence. If it comes down to it, if we have to choose between protecting Mom's NDA or exposing Dad's lies, what do we choose? No one answered immediately. The question hung in the air like smoke. Finally, Griffin spoke. We ask Mom, it's her story, her pain, her choice. We don't make this decision for her. The others nodded in agreement. They drove through the night toward Malibu. 5 of Elon Musk's children united for the first time in their lives, about to force their mother to make an impossible choice. Stay silent and safe, or speak truth and risk everything. Griffin looked out at the dark Texas sky, stars scattered like diamonds above them. His father wanted to reach those stars, to make humanity multiplanetary, to ensure consciousness survived forever. But down here on Earth, his family was fracturing into pieces. And Griffin wondered, what was the point of saving humanity if you destroyed your own humanity in the process? They reached Malibu at 4 a.m. The Pacific Ocean whispered against the shore, invisible in the darkness except for the white foam of breaking waves. Justine's house sat on a cliff overlooking the water, modest compared to Elon's properties but beautiful in its simplicity. The lights were on. She's awake, Saxon said as they pulled into the driveway. Griffin's stomach twisted. His mother was waiting for them, probably terrified about what they'd discovered. They walked to the front door together, 5 siblings who'd spent most of their lives apart, now united in seeking truth. Before Griffin could knock, the door opened. Justine Musk stood in the doorway wearing a robe, her dark hair streaked with gray, her face lined with worry. At 49, she still had the sharp intelligence that had attracted Elon decades ago, but her eyes carried a sadness that had never fully left. I knew you'd come, she said quietly. All of you, come inside. They filed into the living room. Books covered every surface. Justine had returned to writing after the divorce, publishing novels about strong women surviving impossible circumstances. Griffin had always wondered if they were autobiographical. Now he knew they were. Mom, Saxon started, but Justine raised a hand. Let me speak first, before you tell me what you found, what you know, what you're planning. She sat down in an armchair facing them. I got a call from Elon's head lawyer tonight. They know you've been investigating. They know about the safety deposit box, about Griffin's meeting with Tallulah Brown, about everything. How? Kai demanded. Your father has resources you can't imagine, Justine said tiredly. Security teams, private investigators, technology that tracks movements and communications. He's been watching you since this started. That's illegal, Vivian said. It's also unstoppable, Justine replied. When you have billions of dollars and the best lawyers in the world, legality becomes flexible. Griffin leaned forward. "Mom, we found your medical records from April 2008 when you were hospitalized." Justine's face went pale. "You weren't supposed to see those." "We needed to understand," Damien said gently, "what Dad did to you, what it cost you." Tears filled Justine's eyes. "That was the lowest point of my life. Finding out about the affair, watching Elon destroy Tallulah Brown's career, realizing my husband would sacrifice anyone to protect his image. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't function. I checked myself into a hospital because I was scared of what I might do if I stayed alone." "You had 5 children at home," Saxon said, his voice breaking. "We needed you." "I know," Justine whispered, "and that guilt has lived with me every day since, but I couldn't be a mother when I could barely be a person. The hospital saved my life." Griffin pulled out his phone, showing his mother the settlement document. "You used Dad's money to help Tallulah Brown. Why didn't you tell us?" Justine stared at the document, old pain crossing her face. "Because it was the one good thing that came from that nightmare. Elon gave me the money to keep me quiet about his affair. I used it to help the woman he destroyed. It felt like justice, in a small way." "But she never knew it was from you," Vivian said. "She found out later somehow. That's why she's willing to testify now, because she knows I tried to help her when no one else would." The room fell silent except for the distant sound of ocean waves. "Mom," Griffin said carefully, "we want to go to Toronto to get Tallulah Brown's full testimony, to document everything so the truth is on record, but we won't do it without your permission. It's your story." Justine stood and walked to the window, looking out at the dark ocean. "Do you know what happens if you do this? If you go public with testimonies and medical records and all these buried secrets?" "Dad's reputation takes a hit," Kai said. "No," Justine turned around, her expression fierce. "Elon's reputation will be fine. He'll frame himself as a flawed genius, a man who made mistakes while trying to save humanity. The public loves that narrative. What happens is that I lose everything." "What do you mean?" Saxon asked. "The NDA I signed isn't just about staying quiet. It's structured so that if any information covered by it becomes public, regardless of the source, I'm in breach. Elon's lawyers made sure of that. If you tell these stories, even though you're not bound by the NDA, they can argue I provided you with the information, which technically I did by keeping those documents where you could find them." Griffin felt sick. His father had built a legal trap so perfect that even his own children trying to tell the truth would snap it shut on their mother. "So we're trapped," Damien said flatly. "We're outmaneuvered," Justine corrected. "There's a difference. Elon is brilliant at game theory, at predicting moves and countermoves. He knew eventually you'd start asking questions. He made sure that asking those questions would hurt me more than him." "That's evil," Vivian said. "That's strategic," Justine replied. "Evil implies emotion. Elon doesn't hate me. He just needs me to stay quiet, and he built a system to ensure that I would." Griffin stood up, frustration boiling over. "So what do we do? Just accept it? Let Dad win?" "Winning and losing aren't the right framework," Justine said. "This isn't a game, it's our lives." "Then help us understand," Saxon pleaded. "What do you want us to do?" Justine sat back down, suddenly looking exhausted. "I want you to go to Toronto. I want you to get Tallulah Brown's testimony on record. I want the truth documented, even if it never becomes public." "Why?" Kai asked. "What's the point if no one ever knows?" "Because truth matters even when it's hidden," Justine said. "Because someday, maybe not today, maybe not for years, the circumstances might change. Elon might die, or the NDAs might expire, or something might shift that makes it possible to speak. And when that day comes, the truth needs to exist. It needs to be preserved." "Like a time capsule," Damien said. Exactly. A time capsule of truth waiting for the right moment to be opened. Vivian shook her head. That's not enough for me. I want justice now. I want Dad to face consequences. Justice and revenge are different things, Justine said gently. Be honest with yourself about which one you're really seeking. The words hit Vivian hard. She sat back silent. There's something else you should know, Justine continued. Tallulah Brown isn't the only person who witnessed Elon's behavior during those years. There are others. Some of them still work for his companies. Some left and signed NDAs. But there's a network of people who know the truth. If you go to Toronto and Tallulah agrees to testify, she might connect you with others. How do you know this? Griffin asked. Because I've stayed in touch with some of them over the years. Quietly, carefully. Supporting each other through the aftermath of working for or being married to Elon Musk. Saxon looked at his mother with new respect. You've been building a resistance. I've been surviving, Justine corrected, and helping others survive. That's different from resistance. Griffin's phone buzzed. Another text from Elon. Elon, I know you're with your mother. I'm asking you one last time, don't do this. Don't go to Toronto. Don't destroy our family for a story that won't change anything. I'm willing to talk, to explain, to help you understand my perspective. But if you pursue this, I'll have no choice but to protect myself and my companies, and your mother will be caught in the crossfire. Griffin showed the message to Justine. She read it and smiled sadly. See, he's making it my choice, my burden. If you go forward and I get hurt, it's somehow my fault for not stopping you. That's manipulation, Vivian said. Yes, Justine agreed. But it's also effective, because now you're all looking at me, wondering if going to Toronto is worth the risk to my safety. The siblings exchanged glances. Their father had done it again, cornered them with guilt, made them choose between truth and protecting their mother. I'm going to Toronto, Griffin said suddenly. With or without anyone else. I need to hear Tallulah's full story. I need to understand what Dad did, even if I can never share it publicly. I'm coming too, Vivian said immediately. The triplets looked at each other with that silent communication, then nodded together. All of us, Kai said. We do this together. Justine's eyes filled with tears, but she was smiling. You're braver than I was at your age. We learned from you, Saxon said. You survived Dad, you got out. You built a life on your own terms. That took more courage than we'll ever need. Justine stood and hugged her youngest sons, then Vivian and Griffin. Go to Toronto, get the testimony, document everything, but promise me something. Anything, Griffin said. Don't make this about revenge against your father. Make it about understanding your own history, about knowing where you come from so you can decide where you're going. Can you do that? They all nodded. And one more thing, Justine added. Whatever you find out, whatever Tallulah tells you, remember that your father is still human. Flawed, broken, sometimes cruel, but human. Don't let your search for truth turn you into people who can't see nuance or complexity. Even after everything he did to you, Vivian asked. Especially after everything he did to me, Justine said. Because I know what it's like to be reduced to a simple story, bitter ex-wife, scorned woman, gold digger. I don't want you to reduce your father to a simple villain. He's more complicated than that, more broken. Griffin hugged his mother one more time. We'll call you from Toronto, let you know what we find. Be safe, Justine said. And remember, your father will be watching. He'll know every move you make. As they drove away from Malibu, the sun was beginning to rise over the Pacific. Griffin looked back at his mother's house, at the woman who'd survived Elon Musk and built a quiet life from the wreckage. She's stronger than Dad, Saxon said from the backseat, in all the ways that actually matter. No one disagreed. They drove straight to Lax, booking the next flight to Toronto. 6 hours later, they were crossing into Canada, 5 Musk children on a mission to uncover secrets their father had spent 16 years burying. Griffin pulled up Tallulah Brown's last known address on his phone, an apartment in Toronto's Queen Street West neighborhood. "What if she's changed her mind?" Damien asked. "What if she won't talk to us?" "Then we respect that," Griffin said, "but we have to try." The plane began its descent into Toronto. Through the window, Griffin could see Lake Ontario, the CN Tower, a city full of people living normal lives without the weight of being Elon Musk's children. For a moment, he envied them. Then his phone buzzed one more time, a message from an unknown number. "TB expecting you. 847 Queen Street West, apartment 12. Come before 6 p.m. She tires easily. And bring proof you're really Justine's children. She's been burned before by journalists pretending to be something they're not." Griffin showed the message to his siblings. "Dad's people," Kai suggested. "Or Tallulah herself," Vivian said, "using a burner phone." "Only one way to find out," Griffin said. They landed in Toronto with 3 hours until the 6 p.m. deadline. The search for truth was about to get very real, and Griffin had a feeling that whatever they learned in apartment 12 would change everything they thought they knew about their family. Toronto's Queen Street West buzzed with afternoon energy. Vintage shops, coffee houses, and street art covered every surface. Griffin and his siblings stood outside a brick apartment building, number 847, looking up at the third-floor windows. "Last chance to turn back," Kai said, but no one moved toward the car. "Let's go," Griffin said. The building had no security. They climbed narrow stairs that smelled like old wood and coffee. Apartment 12 sat at the end of a dim hallway. Griffin knocked 3 times. Silence. Then footsteps, slow, careful. The door opened 6 inches, held by a chain lock. A woman's face appeared in the gap. She was thin, almost gaunt, with short gray hair and tired eyes that held sharp intelligence. "Names," she said, not a question, a command. "Griffin Musk. These are my siblings, Vivian, Kai, Saxon, and Damien." "Proof." Griffin pulled out his driver's license. The others did the same, passing them through the gap. The woman studied each one carefully, comparing faces to IDs. "You look like him," she said to Griffin. "Same eyes, same way of standing, like you're calculating the next 5 moves." She looked at Vivian. "You look like your mother, that's good. Justine had kind eyes." She closed the door, unlatched the chain, then opened it fully. "I'm Tallulah Brown, or I was. Now I'm Sarah Chen. Come in quickly. I don't like standing where neighbors can see." They entered a small apartment packed with books and plants. Medical equipment sat in one corner, oxygen tank, pill bottles, walking cane. Everything spoke of someone managing a terminal illness while trying to maintain dignity. Sarah, Tallulah, gestured to a worn couch. "Sit. I'll make tea, unless you're in a rush to get this over with." "We're not in a rush," Saxon said gently. "We're grateful you're willing to talk to us." Sarah paused, studying Saxon with something like approval. "You're the writer, like your mother, I can tell." She disappeared into the kitchen. The siblings sat quietly, taking in the space. Photos covered one wall, Sarah with various people, smiling, healthy, living a life before cancer. No photos of Tesla or anything connecting her to her past. Sarah returned with a tray of tea cups. Her hands shook slightly as she poured. "I have stage 4 lung cancer," she said matter-of-factly. "Never smoked a day in my life, just bad luck. 4 months left, maybe 6. So I've decided to stop protecting powerful men who never protected me." "We're sorry," Damien said. "Don't be, I'm not." Sarah sat in an armchair across from them. "Dying clarifies things, makes you realize what matters, and what matters is truth." She looked at each of them. "Your mother asked you to bring something, proof that she sent you." Griffin pulled out his phone, showing a photo his mother had texted him that morning. Justine holding today's newspaper with a handwritten note. Thank you for your courage. These are my children. Please help them understand. Sarah's eyes softened. Justine, she saved me, you know, not just with money, with kindness. After your father destroyed my career, I was broken. Couldn't work, couldn't think straight. She found me somehow, sent money through lawyers so I couldn't refuse it. Anonymous at first, but I figured it out. She didn't have to do that. She told us, Vivian said, last night. Then you know she's a good person, which makes this harder, because what I'm about to tell you will hurt. It'll change how you see your father, maybe how you see your entire childhood. We're ready, Griffin said, though he wasn't sure that was true. Sarah sipped her tea, gathering strength. I worked at Tesla's Fremont factory from January to May 2008. Quality control engineer. I was good at my job, detail-oriented, thorough. That's probably why I noticed things other people missed or chose to ignore. She set down her cup. In March, I was working late. Most people had gone home, but I needed to finish a report. I walked past one of the executive offices and heard voices, laughing. I wouldn't have thought anything of it except the door was slightly open and I recognized your father's voice. Sarah's expression darkened. I looked in, not spying, just glancing. Your father was with a woman, not your mother. Younger, beautiful, they were close. Very close, kissing. Kai's jaw tightened. They'd all known about the affair intellectually, but hearing it described made it real. I walked away quickly. Not my business, right? But the next day I mentioned it to a colleague, just casual conversation. I said something like, Mr. Musk was working late yesterday with that actress who's been visiting the factory. Nothing malicious, just observation. Sarah's hands began to shake again, but not from illness, from remembered fear. 2 hours later, I was called to HR. 3 lawyers were waiting. They accused me of planning to leak confidential information to the press. They had printed emails, my emails, about quality control issues at the factory. Completely normal work emails, but they twisted them. Said I was documenting problems to damage Tesla's reputation. That's insane, Vivian said. That's strategic, Sarah corrected. They threatened to sue me for corporate espionage, to blacklist me from every engineering firm in California, to make sure I never worked again, unless I signed an NDA and resigned immediately. What did you do? Damien asked. I panicked. I was 28 years old. Student loans, rent, a career I'd worked years to build, so I signed. They gave me a severance package, enough to seem generous but not enough to live on for long, and I left that day. Didn't even clean out my desk. Griffin felt rage building in his chest. His father had done this. Systematically destroyed someone's life for seeing something inconvenient. But that's not the worst part, Sarah continued. 2 days later, your mother showed up at my apartment. She'd found out somehow, maybe overheard your father talking to lawyers. She was crying. She said, I'm so sorry. This is my fault. If I'd left him sooner, he wouldn't have people to hurt to protect his secrets. Tears ran down Sarah's face. Your mother felt guilty for my destroyed career. Can you imagine? She was the victim of his affair, but she felt guilty for what he did to silence me. That's who Justine is. That's why I'm talking to you now. Saxon was crying too. Vivian stared at the floor, fists clenched. There's more, Sarah said. Things I saw before March. Things about how your father treated employees, especially women. How he'd work people for days without sleep, then fire them if they complained. How he'd humiliate engineers in meetings if they questioned his designs. How he created this culture where everyone was terrified of disappointing him. She pulled out a folder from beside her chair. I've documented everything. Dates, incidents, names of witnesses. Some of these people still work for Tesla or SpaceX. Most won't talk because they're scared. But their stories exist here. She handed the folder to Griffin. It was thick with papers, dozens of testimonies, incident reports, emails. "Your father is brilliant," Sarah said. "He might actually get humanity to Mars, but he's also cruel. And the cruelty isn't a bug in his programming, it's a feature. He believes the mission justifies everything. Every destroyed career, every broken family, every person crushed under the weight of his vision." Griffin opened the folder. The first page was titled, "Tesla Fremont Factory Pattern of Abuse 2006-2008. Below it, a list of names. Engineers, assistants, factory workers, all people who'd been fired, forced out, or paid to disappear. "Why didn't anyone stop him?" Kai asked. "Who would?" Sarah replied. "He's Elon Musk, billionaire genius, savior of humanity, who's going to believe a 28-year-old engineer over him, who's going to risk their career to speak up." "Mom did," Saxon said quietly. "She left him." "Yes, and look what it cost her. She can't even tell her own story without risking everything. That's the power imbalance we're talking about." Vivian stood up and paced to the window. "How do we stop him? How do we make sure he can't do this to anyone else?" Sarah's laugh was bitter. "You don't. He's too powerful now, too rich, too famous. The only thing you can do is protect yourselves. Don't work for his companies. Don't let him control your lives. And document everything so someday, maybe long after I'm dead, the truth exists for people who want to find it." Griffin looked at his siblings. They'd come to Toronto hoping for answers. They'd found them, but the answers were heavier than expected. "Can we record your testimony?" Griffin asked. "Video, audio, whatever you're comfortable with, for the record." Sarah nodded. "That's why you're here. Set up your phone, I'll tell you everything." For the next 2 hours, Sarah Chen, formerly Tallulah Brown, told her story on camera. She named names, cited dates, described incidents in precise detail. She talked about the affair she'd witnessed, the legal threats she'd endured, the career she'd lost. She talked about Justine's kindness, about receiving anonymous help when she had nowhere else to turn. And she talked about Elon Musk, not as a villain, but as a man so convinced of his own importance that other people's suffering became acceptable collateral damage. When she finished, Sarah looked exhausted. The effort of remembering, of speaking truth, had drained her. "Thank you," Griffin said, stopping the recording. "This matters. Even if we never make it public, it matters that someone witnessed what happened to you." "Will you make it public?" Sarah asked. Griffin looked at his siblings. Vivian nodded. The triplets did too. "We don't know yet," Griffin admitted. "It's complicated. Mom's NDA, legal risks, Dad's power, but we're working on it, trying to find a way to tell the truth without destroying everyone in the process." Sarah smiled sadly. "That's the trap, isn't it? Elon built a system where telling the truth hurts his victims more than it hurts him. That's genius, in a terrible way." They stood to leave. Sarah walked them to the door, leaning on her cane. "One more thing," she said. "There are others, other people your father silenced over the years. If you want their stories, I can connect you. They might not all talk, but they exist. You're not alone in this." She handed Griffin a piece of paper with 3 names and phone numbers. "These people all worked for your father, all left under suspicious circumstances, all signed NDAs, but some might be willing to talk off the record, if they know Justine's children are asking." Griffin pocketed the paper. "Thank you for everything." "Don't thank me yet," Sarah said. "You haven't decided what to do with all this information. That's the hard part. Living with the truth is one thing. Figuring out what to do with it is another." They walked back down the stairs into the Toronto afternoon. The street looked the same, busy, colorful, alive, but Griffin felt different. He'd heard the truth directly from someone who'd lived it. His father wasn't just flawed, he was dangerous. "What now?" Kai asked as they stood on the sidewalk. Griffin's phone buzzed. A text from Elon. Elon, I know you met with her. Whatever she told you, remember, she's bitter, angry, looking for revenge. Don't let her poison your mind against me. Come home, let's talk like family. Griffin showed the text to his siblings. He's still trying to control the narrative, Vivian said. Even now, even knowing we have Sarah's testimony. Because that's all he knows how to do, Damien observed. Saxon looked at Griffin. What do we do? Griffin thought about his mother in Malibu, about Sarah dying in Toronto, about all the other people his father had silenced over the years. He thought about Nevada, the baby brother he'd never met but whose death had shaped everything. We go home, Griffin said. We talk to Mom. We decide together how to honor these stories without letting them destroy us. And Dad, Kai asked. Griffin looked at his father's text message one more time. We tell him the truth, that we know everything, that we're not scared anymore, and that if he wants to be part of our lives, he needs to stop treating us like problems to be managed. They walked to their rental car, 5 Musk children carrying the weight of their family's secrets. Behind them in apartment 12, Sarah Chen sat by her window and watched them leave. She'd done what she could, told her truth, passed the burden to the next generation. Now it was up to them. The flight back to California felt longer than the flight to Toronto. Griffin sat by the window watching clouds drift past, the folder from Sarah Chen heavy in his lap. Dozens of names, dozens of stories like hers. All silenced by money and lawyers and fear. Vivian sat beside him, headphones on but no music playing. She stared at nothing, processing. Across the aisle, the triplets whispered among themselves, that low conversation only they could have, finishing each other's thoughts. Griffin's phone buzzed. He turned off airplane mode during the layover in Chicago. Messages flooded in. Mom, are you safe? Did you find what you needed? Elon, when you land, call me. This can't wait. Unknown number, this is Marcus Webb, former SpaceX engineer. Sarah Chen gave me your number. I need to talk to you about what happened in 2009. Call me. Griffin showed Vivian the messages. She read them and pulled out her own phone. I have 4 similar texts, she said. People Sarah must have contacted. They want to talk. About what? Griffin asked. About Dad, about what he did to them. Kai leaned across the aisle. We're getting texts too. 6 more people reaching out. This is bigger than we thought. Griffin felt the weight multiply. This wasn't just about his parents' divorce anymore. It was about a pattern of behavior stretching back years. His father building empires on the backs of people he'd crushed and silenced. We can't talk to all of them, Damien said practically. We're not investigators. We're college students and high school seniors. But we're also his children, Saxon pointed out. We have access he doesn't expect. We can ask questions without it being suspicious. Vivian shook her head. Everything we do is suspicious to Dad now. He's watching us, tracking us. We need to be smarter. How? Kai asked. Griffin thought for a moment. We need a plan, a real one, not just reactive, proactive. We decide what we want to accomplish, what we're willing to risk, and how to protect Mom in the process. We need a meeting, Saxon said. All of us plus Mom, somewhere Dad can't listen in or interrupt. Where? Damien asked. He owns houses everywhere, has security everywhere, probably has tracking devices on all our phones. Vivian smiled, a sharp, calculating smile that reminded Griffin of their father. I know a place. My friend's family has a cabin in Big Sur, off the grid. No cell service, no internet. Cash rental, no paper trail. Dad won't find us there. When? Griffin asked. This weekend, Friday to Sunday. We tell Mom we go dark on our phones Thursday night. We meet at the cabin Friday morning. The triplets looked at each other with that silent communication, then nodded together. We're in, Kai said. Griffin looked around at his siblings, all of them scared, all of them determined. Okay, Big Sur, this weekend. We figure out what to do with everything we've learned. Friday morning, Big Sur, California. The cabin sat on a cliff overlooking the Pacific Ocean, surrounded by redwood trees and accessible only by a narrow dirt road. No neighbors for miles, just wilderness, ocean, and silence. Justine arrived first, driving a rental car paid for with cash. She looked nervous, constantly checking the road behind her. "Are you sure we're safe here?" she asked as Griffin helped her carry bags inside. "As sure as we can be," Griffin said. "No digital footprint." Vivian's friend thinks we're on a romantic weekend. Dad doesn't know this place exists. Justine touched his face gently. "You've grown up so much in the past week, all of you have." One by one, the others arrived. Vivian on her motorcycle, the triplets in Kai's SUV. By noon, all 6 of them sat around a wooden table in the cabin's main room, windows open to the sound of waves crashing below. Griffin laid out Sarah Chen's folder. This is everything she documented. Incident reports, witness statements, dates and details of people Dad hurt or silenced between 2006 and 2008. He pulled out his phone, which he'd kept in airplane mode. "And these are messages from 8 more people who want to talk to us. All former Tesla or SpaceX employees, all with stories about Dad." Justine opened the folder, reading silently. Her hands shook as she turned pages. Tears fell onto the paper. "I didn't know it was this bad," she whispered. "I knew about Tallulah Brown, about a few others, but this many people." "There might be more," Vivian said. "These are just the ones brave enough to reach out." Kai stood and walked to the window. "So what do? We have evidence of a pattern. Dad's systematically hurting people who get in his way. Do we go public? Write an article, post it online? And destroy Mom in the process?" Damien asked. "Her NDA doesn't care about our good intentions. If this information becomes public, Dad's lawyers will come after her." "They'll argue I leaked it to you," Justine said quietly. "That I broke the agreement by telling you where to look, who to talk to. Technically, they're right." Saxon leaned forward. "So we're trapped. We have the truth but can't tell it without hurting the one person we're trying to protect." Silence filled the cabin. Outside, seagulls cried. Waves crashed against rocks. The world continued, indifferent to their impossible choice. "There might be another way," Justine said slowly. "Something I've been thinking about since you went to Toronto." Everyone turned to her. "Elon's NDA with me expires in 5 years. When it does, I can tell my story freely. But there's a clause, a small one, that most people miss. If Elon publicly misrepresents our marriage or divorce in a way that damages my reputation, I can respond to correct the record. That's not considered a breach." "Has he misrepresented it?" Griffin asked. "Constantly," Justine said. "In interviews, he talks about our marriage ending due to different priorities or growing apart. He implies it was mutual and amicable. That's not true, but until now, I've never pushed back because I was scared." Vivian sat up straighter. "But if we can document him publicly lying about the marriage, you could respond. Legally. And once you start responding, the whole story comes out." "It's risky," Justine warned. "His lawyers will fight it. They'll argue that general statements don't trigger the clause. We'd need something specific, undeniable." "An interview," Saxon said suddenly. "We get Dad to do an interview about his personal life. About you, about the divorce. We ask questions that force him to either tell the truth or lie publicly. If he lies, you can respond." Griffin shook his head. "Dad won't do an interview with us. He's too smart for that." "Not with us," Saxon clarified. "With a journalist, someone legitimate. We plant the idea, make him think it's good for his image. Then we feed the journalist questions that expose his lies." "That's manipulation," Kai said. "That's strategy," Saxon countered. Dad plays chess with people's lives. Maybe it's time we learn the game." Justine looked at her children, pride and worry mixing on her face. "That's dangerous. If Elon figures out you're behind it, he'll retaliate." "Let him," Vivian said. "I'm tired of being scared of our own father, tired of watching him rewrite history while we stay silent." Damien pulled out a notebook. "Let's think this through. Who would interview Dad? What publication? What angle would make him say yes?" They spent the next hour brainstorming. Saxon, the writer, took notes. They identified several journalists known for in-depth profiles of tech leaders. They drafted questions that seemed innocent but would force Elon to either be honest about the marriage or lie in ways that could be proven false. "There's a problem," Griffin said. "Even if this works, even if Dad lies publicly and Mom gets to respond, what about all the other people? Sarah Chen, the 8 employees trying to reach us, everyone else he's hurt. They're still silenced by their own NDAs." "That's phase 2, Vivian said. "Once Mom speaks, once the pattern is public, others might feel safer coming forward. NDAs are hard to enforce if multiple people violate them simultaneously. Dad can't sue everyone." "Yes, he can," Justine said quietly. "He has unlimited resources. He can sue all of them and bankrupt them with legal fees even if he loses." The room fell quiet again. Every solution had a problem. Every path forward hurt someone. "What if we don't go public at all?" Damien suggested. "What if we just live with this knowledge, use it to protect ourselves but don't try to expose Dad?" "Then he wins," Vivian said. "He keeps silencing people, keeps rewriting history, keeps being treated like a hero while acting like a tyrant." "But we survive," Damien countered. "We protect Mom. We don't risk everything for a truth that might not even change anything." Griffin saw his siblings splitting, Vivian and Saxon ready to fight, Damien cautious, Kai torn between both sides. They were fracturing under the weight of truth, just like their parents had fractured under the weight of grief. "Stop," Griffin said loudly. Everyone looked at him. "We're thinking about this wrong. This isn't about winning or losing, exposing or hiding. It's about something else." "What?" Saxon asked. "It's about choosing who we want to be," Griffin said. "Do we want to be people who know the truth and do nothing? People who let fear control us? Or do we want to be people who act with integrity even when it's hard?" "That's easy to say," Damien argued. "Harder to do when Mom's life is on the line." "Which is why it has to be Mom's choice," Griffin said, turning to Justine. "Not ours. We're putting all this pressure on ourselves to decide, but it's your story, your pain, your risk. What do you want to do?" Justine looked at her 5 children, the babies she'd raised mostly alone while their father built rockets. They'd grown into thoughtful, principled adults despite everything, maybe because of everything. "I want you to understand something," Justine said slowly. "When I left your father, I made a choice. I chose survival over truth. I took his money, signed his papers, and stayed quiet because I was terrified of losing you, of being painted as crazy or vindictive, of having no resources to fight back." She stood and walked to the window, looking out at the ocean. "For 16 years, I've lived with that choice. Some days it feels right. I protected you, kept us stable, gave you a childhood that wasn't consumed by legal battles. Other days it feels like cowardice. I let Elon control the narrative, let him be the hero while I was the footnote." Justine turned back to face them. "But watching you these past few days, investigating, questioning, refusing to accept easy answers, I realized something. You're braver than I was. And maybe that's my real legacy. Not the books I've written or the quiet life I've built, but children who won't accept comfortable lies." Tears streamed down her face. "So here's my answer. I want to tell my story, publicly, legally, whatever that takes. I'm tired of being silent, tired of letting fear win. If Elon sues me, I'll fight him. If I lose everything, at least I'll lose it with my integrity intact." Vivian jumped up and hugged their mother. Saxon and Damien joined. Kai stood back looking worried. Griffin stayed seated thinking through the implications. "Mom," Griffin said carefully, "if we do this, there's no going back. Dad will come at you with everything he has. You could lose your house, your savings, access to us if he fights for legal control." "I know," Justine said, "but I've been dead inside for 16 years, Griffin. I'd rather be broke and honest than rich and silent." Kai finally spoke up. "What about us? If you and Dad go to war, where does that leave us?" "Free," Justine said simply. "Free to choose your own relationships with him, your own paths. I'm not asking you to take sides. I'm just asking you to let me tell the truth." The siblings looked at each other. No silent communication this time, each of them processing individually. "I'm with Mom," Vivian said immediately. "Me too," Saxon added. Kai and Damien exchanged glances. "It's scary," Damien said. "But yeah, we're with you." Everyone looked at Griffin. He was the oldest, the one who'd stayed closest to Elon, the one who tried hardest to bridge the gap. Griffin thought about his father alone at Starbase, building rockets to Mars while unable to maintain relationships on Earth. He thought about Nevada, the brother he'd never met. He thought about Sarah Chen dying in Toronto, finally free to speak because she had nothing left to lose. "I'm with Mom," Griffin said, "but I want to give Dad one more chance. One conversation where I tell him what we know, what we're planning, and give him the option to be honest. If he chooses transparency, we do this quietly. If he chooses to fight or deny, we go public." Justine nodded slowly. "That's fair, more fair than he deserves, but fair." "When?" Vivian asked. "Tomorrow," Griffin said. "I'll fly to Starbase, talk to him face to face. Give him 24 hours to decide truth or consequences." "He'll choose consequences," Vivian predicted. "He always does." "Maybe," Griffin said, "but at least we'll know we tried." They spent the rest of the day at the cabin planning. Saxon drafted talking points for Griffin's conversation with Elon. Justine contacted a lawyer specializing in NDA disputes. Vivian started organizing the testimonies and documents into a coherent timeline. As the sun set over the Pacific, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and reds, the Musk family sat together on the cabin's deck. For the first time in years, they felt united. Not by their father's gravity, but by their own choice to seek truth. "Whatever happens," Justine said, "I'm proud of you, all of you, for caring about truth more than comfort." "We learned from you," Griffin said. That night, Griffin lay awake in his sleeping bag, staring at the cabin's wooden ceiling. Tomorrow, he'd face his father. Tomorrow, everything would change. His phone, still in airplane mode, held dozens of unread messages. He turned it on briefly to check. 53 messages from Elon. "Elon, where are you? Elon, this silence is childish. Elon, I can find you. You know that, right? Elon, whatever you're planning, it will hurt your mother more than me. Elon, call me. Last chance." The messages grew more desperate, then angrier, then calculating. Griffin could track his father's emotional journey through texts. The final message, sent an hour ago. "Elon, I know about Big Sur. I've always known. I own the property next door. You're not as clever as you think. See you tomorrow, Griffin. Come alone." Griffin's blood went cold. His father had known where they were the entire time, had let them feel safe, let them plan, let them believe they had agency. Because that's what Elon Musk did. He controlled the board while letting others think they were playing the game. Griffin walked outside where Vivian sat on the deck still, watching the stars. "He knows we're here," Griffin said, showing her the message. Vivian read it and smiled coldly. "Of course he does. He probably listened to every word we said inside too. Probably has the cabin bugged." So this was all pointless. The planning, the secrecy. No, Vivian said, because now we know something important. Dad thinks he's 10 steps ahead, which means he'll be overconfident, and overconfidence is weakness. Griffin sat beside his sister. How did we get here? How did our family become a chess game? We were always a chess game, Vivian said. We just didn't realize we were pieces until recently. Now we're choosing to be players instead. What if we lose? Then we lose honestly, Vivian said, which is better than winning on Dad's terms. They sat in silence, watching the ocean far below, lit by moonlight. Tomorrow, Griffin would face Elon Musk one final time, and depending on how that conversation went, the world would finally learn the truth about the Musk family, or the truth would die with all the others, buried under NDAs and money and the relentless march toward Mars. Griffin woke to fog rolling in from the Pacific. The Big Sur cabin sat wrapped in gray mist, the ocean invisible below. He'd barely slept, running through 1,000 versions of the conversation ahead. By 8 a.m., everyone was awake. Justine made coffee in the small kitchen. The triplets sat quietly on the deck. Vivian paced. "You don't have to go alone," Kai said. "We could all come." "Dad specified alone," Griffin replied. "If I bring everyone, he'll see it as a power play. He'll shut down completely." "He might shut down anyway," Damien observed. "This could be a trap. He could have lawyers waiting, security." "That's why I'm recording everything," Griffin said, holding up his phone. "Audio, video if possible. Whatever happens, we'll have a record." Justine pulled Griffin aside. "Are you sure about this? You don't owe him another chance. He's had 20 years to be honest." "I need to look him in the eye," Griffin said. "I need to give him the choice, even if he makes the wrong one. Otherwise, I'll always wonder if we pushed him into a corner too fast." Justine hugged her son. "You're more generous than he deserves, but that's good. That means you're not becoming him." Griffin left the cabin at 9 a.m., driving a rental car down the winding coastal highway. The fog lifted as he headed inland, revealing the stark California landscape, golden hills, scattered oaks, endless sky. His phone rang as he crossed into Tesla territory. "Elon, you're on your way," his father said. Not a question. "Yes." "Good, meet me at the Fremont factory. Where it all started, seems fitting." The line went dead. Fremont, the place where Elon had the affair, where Tallulah Brown's career was destroyed, where Justine had seen the man she married become someone she didn't recognize. Griffin's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Fremont Factory, Tesla headquarters. The factory sprawled across acres, gleaming and modern. Tesla's rolled-off assembly lines visible through massive windows. Workers moved with purpose. Everything spoke of efficiency, innovation, progress. Griffin parked in the visitor lot. A security guard approached immediately. "Griffin Musk." "Yes." "Follow me. Mr. Musk is waiting." They walked through corridors filled with the hum of machinery and the smell of fresh electronics, past design studios and testing labs. Finally, to an observation deck overlooking the main factory floor. Elon stood at the railing, hands in his pockets, watching robots assemble cars below. He didn't turn when Griffin entered. "I built this," Elon said. "Saved Tesla from bankruptcy, created the world's most valuable car company, proved electric vehicles could be mainstream. All of it happened here. And destroyed people here too," Griffin added quietly. Elon finally turned. He looked older than at their last meeting, tired but alert, calculating. "You came to judge me, that's what this is about." "I came to understand you," Griffin corrected. "There's a difference." "Is there? Because from where I'm standing, you and your siblings have spent the past week collecting ammunition. Testimonies, documents, angry ex-employees, building a case against me. Griffin pulled out his phone and set it on the railing between them, camera facing up. "I'm recording this, just so you know." Elon glanced at the phone. "Good. I want my words documented too. No more he said, she said." "Dad, I went to Toronto. I met Talala Brown, the engineer whose career you destroyed for seeing you with your girlfriend. She's dying. Cancer. She had nothing to lose, so she told me everything." "Everything according to her perspective," Elon said. "Did she mention that she was gossiping about my personal life to colleagues, creating a hostile work environment? I had to protect my company by fabricating charges of corporate espionage, by threatening to blacklist her from the entire industry, by handling a personnel issue efficiently," Elon said flatly. "Sometimes people become liabilities. You manage the liability." Griffin felt anger rising but forced himself to stay calm. She wasn't a liability. She was a person, with a career, a life, dreams. You destroyed all of that because she saw something you wanted hidden. "I protected Tesla," Elon insisted. "At that time, we were barely surviving. One scandal, one distraction, could have killed the company. Should I have let thousands of jobs disappear because one engineer couldn't keep quiet?" "Those are false choices, Dad. You could have been honest, ended your marriage properly before starting a new relationship, been transparent instead of covering things up." Elon laughed, a harsh sound with no humor. "You think honesty works in business, in building companies that change the world. Honesty is a luxury for people who aren't trying to revolutionize entire industries." "Then why did you ask me here?" Griffin challenged. "If you think you're right, if you have no regrets, why agree to meet?" Elon was quiet for a moment, watching the factory floor below. "Because you're my son. Because despite everything, I don't want you to hate me." The admission caught Griffin off guard. His father, vulnerable, actually caring what Griffin thought. "I don't hate you," Griffin said. "But I don't understand you. I don't understand how someone smart enough to build rockets can't figure out how to love his own family." Elon's jaw tightened. "I've told you before, I loved Nevada. Everything after him was about making sure that kind of loss never happens again. Every child I've had, every company I've built, it's all about ensuring consciousness survives." "No, Dad. It's about running away from pain. You couldn't save Nevada, so you tried to engineer better children. You couldn't fix your marriage, so you found a new wife. Problem after problem, solved by replacing what broke instead of healing it." "And what's wrong with that?" Elon demanded. "Moving forward instead of dwelling on the past, building instead of breaking down. That's how progress happens, Griffin. That's how humanity advances." "But we're not humanity," Griffin said, his voice rising. "We're your family, your actual children. We needed a father who could be present, who could grieve with us, who could be human, not a walking mission statement." Elon stepped closer, eyes intense. "I gave you everything. The best education, resources, opportunities most people can't imagine. I'm literally trying to make humanity multiplanetary so your generation has a future. And you're complaining that I wasn't present enough." "Yes," Griffin shouted, "because all the opportunities in the world don't replace having a father who sees you as a person instead of a genetic experiment, who remembers your birthday, who asks how you're doing without making it about his schedule." Elon flinched. "I remember your birthdays." "You missed Kai's birthday 3 years in a row," Griffin said. "You forgot Vivian existed for 6 months after she changed her name. You still call me by Saxon's name sometimes because you can't keep track of which triplet is which." "I have 11 children with 3 different women," Elon said defensively. "I'm managing multiple companies simultaneously, Perfect recall of every personal detail isn't realistic. Other people manage it, Griffin said. People with regular jobs and fewer resources. They figure out how to show up for their kids, but you treat us like items on a checklist. Have children? Check. Fund their education? Check. See them occasionally? Check. That's not fatherhood, Dad. That's project management. Elon turned away, gripping the railing. When he spoke again, his voice was quieter, almost vulnerable. Do you want to know what really happened the night Nevada died? Griffin went still. This was it, the truth his father had avoided for 22 years. I already know. You told me at Starbase. He stopped breathing. SIDS. You couldn't save him. That's the summary, Elon said. Not the whole truth. He took a breath. When the doctors pronounced him dead, when they stopped working on him, they asked if I wanted to hold him, to say goodbye. Griffin waited, barely breathing. I said no. I walked out of the hospital. I left your mother there alone with his body because I couldn't. I physically couldn't make myself hold my dead son. Elon's voice cracked. I drove to the SpaceX office at 2 in the morning. I worked until dawn on rocket designs because it was the only thing that made sense. Thrust equations, fuel calculations, problems I could actually solve. Dad, your mother never forgave me for that, Elon continued. For leaving her alone in the hospital, for not crying with her at the funeral, for going back to work like nothing happened. She thought I didn't care. But the truth is worse. I cared too much. The pain was going to destroy me, so I ran. I've been running ever since. Griffin saw tears on his father's face for the second time in his life. Every child after Nevada has been me trying to prove that I could get it right this time, that I could protect them, optimize them, make them invulnerable. But you can't engineer away grief, Griffin. I know that now. 20 years too late, but I know it. Griffin felt his own tears falling. Why couldn't you just tell us this? Why all the secrets and NDAs and silencing people? Because admitting vulnerability destroys credibility, Elon said. If the world knows I'm broken, if investors know I can't even maintain a marriage, why would they trust me to get humans to Mars? My companies run on belief in me, belief that I can do impossible things. Showing weakness breaks that belief. So you sacrificed your family for your image. I sacrificed everything for the mission, Elon corrected, including my family, including myself, because the mission is bigger than any of us. Griffin stared at his father, finally understanding him completely. Elon Musk genuinely believed that making humanity multiplanetary justified any personal cost, any destroyed relationship, any silenced voice. He wasn't evil. He was a true believer, willing to burn everything down for his vision of the future. Dad, I need to tell you something. Mom is planning to speak publicly about the marriage, the divorce, everything. She's found a legal pathway through the NDA. Elon's expression went cold instantly. That would be a mistake. It's her truth to tell. It's slander protected by legal loopholes, Elon said. My lawyers will bury her. She knows that. She's willing to take that risk. So are we. We, Elon's eyes narrowed. You're helping her against me. We're helping the truth come out, Griffin said. That's not the same as being against you. If you just be honest, publicly admit the affair, apologize for the NDAs, acknowledge the people you hurt, there'd be no need for a fight. Elon laughed bitterly. You're asking me to commit corporate suicide, to admit to behavior that would cost me board positions, investor confidence, public trust. You might as well ask me to dismantle Tesla and SpaceX myself. I'm asking you to choose your family over your image, Griffin said. One time, just once, choose us. Elon was silent for a long moment, staring at the factory floor below. Cars move down assembly lines, perfect and efficient, the product of his genius. "I can't," he finally said. "I'm sorry, Griffin, but I can't do what you're asking. The mission is too important. The future of humanity depends on these companies succeeding. I won't jeopardize that for sentiment." Griffin felt something break inside him, the last small hope that his father might choose differently. "Then we're going public," Griffin said. "Mom will tell her story. We'll share the testimonies from people you silenced. The world will know who Elon Musk really is." "And I'll sue all of you," Elon said coldly. "Your mother for breach of NDA, you children for tortious interference. I'll use every legal resource I have. You'll spend years in court, bankrupt yourselves on legal fees, and eventually lose because I can outlast anyone." "Maybe," Griffin said, "but at least we'll have our integrity. Can you say the same?" Elon stepped closer, his intensity returning. "Integrity doesn't put humans on Mars. Integrity doesn't solve climate change. Integrity is a comfortable delusion for people who aren't trying to save humanity." "Humanity isn't an abstract concept, Dad," Griffin shouted. "It's individuals, it's Mom, it's me and Vivian and our brothers, it's Tallulah Brown dying in Toronto, it's every person you've crushed. You can't save humanity by destroying the humans right in front of you." "Watch me," Elon said quietly. "I've already proven I can. Tesla is worth more than every other car company combined. SpaceX launches more rockets than entire countries. I've changed the world despite my destroyed relationships. Maybe that proves I'm right." Griffin picked up his phone, stopping the recording. "I gave you a chance to be honest, to be better, to choose your family. And I'm giving you a chance," Elon said. "Walk away from this. Convince your mother to stay quiet. Live your lives without burning everything down out of misplaced righteousness. That's my offer." "Not good enough, Dad." Griffin turned toward the door. Behind him, his father called out, "If you do this, I'll never forgive you. Any of you, you'll be dead to me." Griffin stopped at the doorway, looking back at Elon Musk, billionaire genius, father of 11, man who wanted to save humanity but couldn't save his own family. "We've been dead to you for years, Dad. You just didn't notice because you were too busy looking at Mars." Griffin walked out, leaving his father alone in the factory he'd built on broken promises and silenced voices. As he drove away from Fremont, Griffin called Vivian. "How did it go?" she asked immediately. "He chose the mission, like we knew he would. So we go public." Griffin thought about his father's threat, the lawsuits, the legal battles, the years of fighting ahead. "We go public. Mom tells her story. We share the testimonies. The world gets to decide who Elon Musk really is." "He'll destroy us," Vivian warned. "Let him try," Griffin said. "At least we'll go down telling the truth." As he drove back to Big Sur, Griffin felt lighter somehow. The burden of trying to fix his father, of hoping for change that would never come, had lifted. Elon Musk had made his choice. Now it was time for the Musk children to make theirs. Griffin drove straight back to Big Sur, the weight of his father's final words pressing down on him. "You'll be dead to me." 20 years of trying to understand Elon Musk, reduced to a threat in a factory he'd built on broken lives. The cabin appeared through the fog. Everyone was waiting on the deck, Justine, Vivian, the triplets. They stood as Griffin parked, reading his expression before he said a word. "He chose himself," Griffin said simply. "Again." Justine nodded slowly, like she'd known this would be the outcome. "Then we move forward." They gathered inside. Griffin played the recording of his conversation with Elon, every word, every admission, every threat. When it ended, silence filled the room. "He admitted it," Saxon said quietly. "On tape, everything. The running away from grief, treating us like experiments, prioritizing the mission over family. And he still thinks he's right, Kai added, anger in his voice. Because in his worldview, he is right, Justine said. Elon genuinely believes saving humanity justifies any personal cost. He's not lying or being cruel intentionally. He's just broken in a way that can't be fixed. Vivian pulled out her laptop. Then let's stop trying to fix him and start telling the truth. We have Mom's testimony, Sarah Chen's statement, Griffin's recording, documents from the safety deposit box. We have everything we need. Except a platform, Damien pointed out. How do we release this? Social media, news outlets, a press conference. All of the above, Vivian said. But we need to be strategic. Dad has PR teams, crisis managers, lawyers. If we just dump everything online, they'll control the narrative, make us look like bitter children attacking a genius. We need someone credible, Saxon suggested. A journalist with reach, someone who can verify our story independently. Justine stood and walked to the window. I know someone, Emily Park. She wrote that profile on tech industry NDAs last year for the New York Times. She's been trying to interview me for months. I've always said no because of the legal risks. Would she take this story? Griffin asked. If I'm willing to go on record, yes. She'd verify everything, interview other sources, build an airtight story. And the Times has lawyers who can defend against Elon's inevitable lawsuits. When can you contact her? Vivian asked. Today, now. Justine pulled out her phone. But once I make this call, there's no going back. Elon's lawyers will move fast. They'll file injunctions, sue for breach of contract, freeze assets. We need to be ready for war. The siblings looked at each other. This was the moment, the decision that would change everything. I'm ready, Vivian said first. Me too, Saxon added. Kai and Damien nodded together. Griffin took a breath. Make the call, Mom. Justine stepped outside onto the deck. Through the window, they watched her pace as she spoke, explaining, convincing. 20 minutes later, she came back inside. Emily's flying to San Francisco tomorrow. She wants to interview all of us. Separately, then together. She'll verify Sarah Chen's testimony independently. If everything checks out, the story runs in Sunday's paper, 4 days from now. 4 days, Griffin repeated. That's fast. Emily said this story is too important to sit on. If we wait, Elon's team might find a way to stop it legally. Vivian was already typing on her laptop. We need to prepare our own statements too, for social media, for when the article drops. We need to control our own narrative alongside the Times story. Saxon pulled out his notebook. I'll draft something. What's our message? What do we want people to understand? That we love our father, Justine said quietly. But love doesn't mean accepting lies. We're not doing this out of revenge. We're doing it for truth. For all the people Elon has silenced who deserve to be heard. And for Nevada, Griffin added. This all started with him, with a baby who died and parents who couldn't grieve together. Everything that came after, the broken marriages, the silenced employees, all of it, traces back to that moment. Justine's eyes filled with tears. Yes, for Nevada, the son whose death shaped everything but whose name was erased from the story. They spent the rest of the day preparing. Saxon wrote and rewrote their statement, reading versions aloud, getting feedback. Vivian organized documents chronologically, building a timeline that showed patterns rather than isolated incidents. Kai and Damien prepared for the logistical fallout, lawyers they might need, safe places to stay if Elon cut off their housing, financial backup plans. Justine sat with her journals, preparing to tell her story fully for the first time in 16 years. As evening fell, Griffin's phone exploded with messages. Elon had clearly figured out something was happening. Elon, whatever you're planning, stop. Last warning. Elon, I'll protect my companies at any cost, you know that. Elon, I gave you everything. This is how you repay me. Elon, you're making a mistake that will haunt you forever. Then an hour later, a different tone. Elon, Griffin, please, can we talk? Just us. No lawyers, no recordings, father and son. I need you to understand why this is so important. Griffin showed the message to Vivian. He's panicking, she said. He knows he's losing control. Should I respond? What would you say? Griffin thought for a moment, then typed. Griffin, Dad, I do understand. I understand that your mission is everything to you, that you'd sacrifice anything, including us, for it. That's exactly why we're doing this. Because someone needs to show that people matter more than missions. I love you, but I can't let you keep silencing truth. I'm sorry. He sent it before he could change his mind. Elon's response came immediately. Elon, then you're no son of mine. Griffin stared at the words. 20 years of relationship ended in 7 words. He disowned you, Kai said, reading over Griffin's shoulder. He disowned all of us, Griffin replied, the moment we chose truth over his image. Vivian put a hand on Griffin's shoulder. You okay? Yeah, Griffin said, and surprisingly he was. It hurts, but it's also freeing. I spent my whole life trying to be good enough for him, trying to understand him. Now I can stop. Now I can just be myself. Saturday, San Francisco. Emily Park met them at a hotel suite she'd rented for interviews. She was in her 40s, sharp-eyed, with a reputation for thorough reporting and fearlessness in the face of legal threats. I've been chasing this story for years, she said as they settled into chairs. The whispers about Elon Musk's personal life, the NDAs, the silenced employees, but no one would go on record, until now. She interviewed Justine first for 3 hours. Griffin and his siblings waited in an adjacent room, hearing their mother's voice through the wall, sometimes strong, sometimes breaking with emotion, always honest. Then Emily interviewed each of them separately. She asked hard questions, pushed for specifics, verified details. She treated them like serious sources, not just bitter children of a famous father. Why now? Emily asked Griffin during his interview. After 16 years of silence, why come forward now? Griffin thought carefully. Because I realized that silence protects the wrong people. It protects powerful men who hurt others and face no consequences. But it doesn't protect their victims. My mom has been silent for 16 years and it's eaten away at her. Sarah Chen was silent until she was dying. How many others are still silent, still hurting? And what do you want to accomplish? What's the goal? Accountability, Griffin said. Not revenge, just acknowledgement that what happened to these people was wrong, that my father's genius doesn't excuse the damage he's caused. Emily nodded, making notes. You understand this will be brutal. Your father will fight back. His fans will call you ungrateful, privileged, worse. Are you prepared for that? No, Griffin admitted, but we're doing it anyway. After the interviews, Emily spent Saturday evening fact-checking. She called Sarah Chen in Toronto, verified employment records, contacted other former Tesla and SpaceX employees. She was building an airtight case. By Sunday morning, she had her story. I'm running it, Emily told them. Tomorrow's paper, front page of the business section. The cost of genius, how Elon Musk built his empire on silenced voices. It's thorough, it's documented, and it's devastating. Justine took a shaky breath. So this is really happening. This is really happening, Emily confirmed. My editors have already alerted our legal team. We're prepared for pushback. Are you? Sunday morning. The story dropped online at 6 a.m., 3 hours before the print edition. Griffin woke to his phone exploding with notifications. The New York Times homepage featured their story with photos of Justine Griffin and his siblings. The headline: "The Cost of Genius. Elon Musk's ex-wife and children break silence on NDAs, affairs, and the price of innovation." Griffin read through it with his siblings gathered around. Emily had captured everything: Justine's hospitalization, the Tallulah Brown incident, the pattern of silencing employees, Nevada's death and its aftermath. She'd quoted from Griffin's recording of Elon. She'd included testimony from 3 other former employees who'd agreed to speak on record. It was thorough, devastating, true. "Holy shit," Kai whispered. "The whole world is going to read this." Within an hour, the story was trending on every platform. #Musk family, Justine speaks, cost of genius. Tech journalists, advocates for workplace rights, domestic abuse survivors, everyone was discussing it. Some responses were supportive. Finally, someone holding Elon Musk accountable for how he treats people. Justine Musk is incredibly brave. 16 years of silence must have been torture. This explains so much about Elon's behavior. Brilliant but broken, but others were vicious. Bitter ex-wife trying to destroy her successful ex-husband. Classic. These spoiled kids have everything because of Elon and they're stabbing him in the back. This is a coordinated attack by people who can't handle his genius. Griffin's phone rang. Unknown number, he answered. "Griffin Musk," a professional voice. "Yes." "This is Amanda Reeves from Musk Legal. We're filing injunctions against you, your siblings, and your mother for breach of contract, tortious interference, and defamation. You'll be served with papers within the hour. We strongly advise you retain legal counsel immediately." The line went dead. "It's starting," Griffin told the others. "Dad's lawyers are moving." Justine's phone rang next. Her lawyer, the one specializing in NDA cases. "Justine, they're coming at you hard," the lawyer said on speakerphone. 3 separate lawsuits filed in 3 different jurisdictions. They're trying to overwhelm you legally and financially. But I've got good news. The Times article established a public interest defense. The information you shared is newsworthy. That strengthens our position significantly. "How long will this take?" Justine asked. "Years, probably. Elon has unlimited resources. He can drag this out indefinitely. But we can fight it." "Oh, we'll fight it, and we'll win eventually, but it won't be easy." They spent Sunday fielding calls from lawyers, journalists wanting follow-ups, supporters offering help. By afternoon, a crowdfunding campaign appeared online. Legal defense fund for Justine Musk. Strangers donating money to help her fight Elon's lawsuits. $50,000 already, Vivian said, refreshing the page. "People actually care." "They care about truth," Saxon said. "About powerful people facing consequences." Griffin's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Marcus Webb, former SpaceX engineer. I saw the Times article. I'm ready to add my story. Elon threatened me too. Where do I send my testimony?" Then another. "Jennifer Cho, Tesla 2010-2012. I signed an NDA, but I don't care anymore. Your family's courage inspired me. I want to speak." More messages flooded in. Former employees, people Elon had silenced, all suddenly willing to speak because Justine and her children had gone first. "It's working," Damien said quietly. "People are coming forward." By Sunday evening, Emily Park had contacted them again. "I'm writing a follow-up. 10 more people have reached out with stories about Elon Musk's behavior, all willing to go on record. This is bigger than we thought." Monday morning, 3 days later. The story had taken on a life of its own. News outlets worldwide picked it up. Television interviews, podcasts, opinion pieces. Everyone had a take on the Musk family drama. Elon himself had been silent. No tweets, no public statements. unusual for someone who typically responded to everything. Then, Monday morning, he broke his silence. A tweet from Elon Musk. My family has been manipulated by lawyers and journalists into believing distorted versions of events from 20+ years ago. I love my children. I'm saddened they've chosen this path, but I won't engage in a public battle. I'll let the legal system handle it. The mission continues. Underneath, a photo, Elon at Starbase standing in front of Starship looking determined and focused. The message clear: I'm above this drama. I'm still building the future. The tweet got millions of views within hours. His defenders rallied. Elon is handling this with class while his family attacks him publicly. Obviously, they're being manipulated. Elon gave them everything, but others saw through it. The mission continues, says it all. He cares more about Mars than his own children. Notice he didn't deny anything in the article, just deflected. Griffin stared at his father's tweet. The careful PR management, the victim positioning, the pivot back to his work. Classic Elon Musk, unable to address emotional truth, so he redirected to his mission. Griffin typed a response and posted it publicly. Dad, we're not being manipulated. We're being honest, something you've never learned to do with us. The mission is important, but so are the people you hurt to achieve it. I hope someday you'll understand that. I still love you, but I won't be silent anymore. The response went viral immediately. Father and son arguing in public, the whole world watching. Justine put her hand on Griffin's shoulder. Are you okay? Yeah, Griffin said. For the first time in my life, I'm actually okay, because I told the truth. And whatever happens next, at least I know I did the right thing. That night, as they prepared to leave the hotel and return to their separate lives, the 5 Musk children and their mother sat together one last time. What happens now? Kai asked. Legal battles, Justine said honestly. Years of them, probably. Elon won't give up easily. But we won't either, Vivian added. And we have each other, Saxon said. That's more than we've had in years. Griffin looked at his family, imperfect, damaged, but united in truth. They'd done the impossible, spoken up against one of the most powerful men in the world, and survived. Whatever came next, they'd face it together, not as Elon Musk's family, but as themselves. 3 months later, the legal battles were still raging. Elon's lawyers filed motion after motion. Justine's legal defense fund had grown to over $2 million, ordinary people around the world supporting her fight. The New York Times had published 4 follow-up articles as more voices came forward. But today wasn't about lawsuits or public statements. Today was about remembrance. Griffin stood on a Malibu beach, wind whipping his hair, watching his family gather. It was May 26th, Nevada Alexander Musk's birthday. He would have been 22 years old. Justine had suggested this gathering. A private ceremony, just family, to finally honor the child whose death had shaped everything but whose life had been forgotten. Vivian arrived first, her purple hair now streaked with blue. She hugged Griffin tightly. I can't believe we're doing this. Mom needs it, Griffin said. We all need it. The triplets came together as always. Kai, Saxon, and Damien now graduated from high school, preparing for college in the fall. They'd spent the past 3 months processing, healing, learning who they were outside their father's shadow. Is he coming? Saxon asked, looking toward the parking lot. Mom invited him, Griffin said, but I doubt. A black Tesla pulled up. Griffin's heart stopped. Elon Musk stepped out wearing jeans and a dark jacket. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. He stood by his car for a long moment, staring at the beach, clearly debating whether to join them. Justine saw him from where she stood near the water. She didn't wave or call out. She simply waited, letting him decide. Finally, Elon walked toward them, slowly, carefully, like a man approaching something dangerous. Mom, Kai whispered. Did you know he'd actually come? I hoped, Justine said quietly. The younger children were there too, X, now 5, holding his mother Grimes' hand. Exa 3, shy behind her mother. Shivanzili stood nearby with the twins, Strider and Azure, now 2 years old. All of Elon's children from different relationships gathered in one place for the first time. It should have been awkward. Instead, it felt right. Elon stopped a few feet from Justine. They stared at each other, 20 years of pain and history between them. "Thank you for coming," Justine said simply. "I wasn't sure I should," Elon replied. "After everything." "Today isn't about everything," Justine said. "Today is about Nevada, our son. Can we agree on that at least?" Elon nodded, his expression unreadable. Justine gestured to a spot she'd prepared near the water line. A small table held a framed photo of baby Nevada, one of the few that existed. 10 weeks old, tiny, perfect. Around it, candles protected from the wind by glass shields. "I don't know how to do this," Elon said quietly. "How to remember him." "Neither do I," Justine admitted. "We never learned. We ran from the grief instead of sitting with it, but our children are teaching us." She looked at Griffin, who stepped forward. "We wanted to do something for Nevada," Griffin said, his voice carrying over the sound of waves. "The brother we never met but who shaped all our lives. We wrote letters to him about who we are, who we've become, what we wish we could have told him." Saxon pulled out a stack of papers. "We thought we'd read them, if that's okay." Justine nodded, tears already streaming down her face. Elon stood rigid, but he didn't leave. Vivian went first. She unfolded her letter, hands shaking slightly. "Dear Nevada," she read, "I'm your sister, well, technically. You died before I existed, but I've felt your presence my whole life. Like a ghost in our family, the child who couldn't be talked about but shaped everything. I'm transgender. I changed my name from Xavier to Vivian. I thought it would make me free, separate from the Musk family. But I've realized I carry you with me too. The grief that broke our parents, the pain they couldn't process, it lived in me. Made me feel like I had to be perfect or I'd be the next loss they couldn't survive. I'm learning now that I don't have to be perfect. That being myself is enough. I hope, wherever you are, you know that your 10 weeks of life mattered. You were loved. You are loved. And I'm going to live fully, loudly, authentically for both of us." Vivian folded the letter carefully and placed it beside Nevada's photo. Grimes wiped her eyes. Even Elon's jaw tightened, though he said nothing. Griffin went next. "Nevada, I'm Griffin, your brother. I'm 20 now. I've spent most of my life trying to understand why our family is broken, why Dad works all the time, why Mom seems sad even when she's smiling. I finally understand. It all goes back to you. You died and our parents couldn't grieve together. Dad ran toward rockets and Mars. Mom drowned in pain alone. And me? I was created 3 years later through IVF, genetically screened, engineered to be safer than you were. All my life I've felt the weight of being a better version. A child designed to not die like you did. But I'm learning that I'm not a replacement. I'm my own person. And you're not a problem that needed solving. You were a baby who was loved for 10 perfect weeks. That's enough. That's everything. I promise to remember you, to tell your story. To make sure your life, however brief, is part of our family history instead of erased from it. Thank you for teaching me, all of us, that some losses can't be engineered away. They just have to be felt." Griffin's voice broke on the last words. He placed his letter beside Vivian's. Kai, Saxon, and Damien read their letters together, tag-teaming paragraphs. They talked about being triplets, about always having each other but sensing the brother they'd never met, about learning their own existence was tied to Nevada's death, about choosing to honor his memory by living with integrity. When they finished, even Elon was wiping his eyes. Little X tugged on Grimes' hand. "Why is everyone crying?" Grimes knelt beside him. "We're remembering someone who died a long time ago, someone important to this family." "Did I know them?" "No, baby, but they're still part of your story." X considered this seriously, then walked over to Nevada's photo. He stared at it for a long moment, then placed his small hand on the frame. "Hi," he said simply. I'm your brother too." The gesture broke something in Elon. He made a sound, half sob, half gasp, and suddenly he was kneeling in the sand, shoulders shaking with 22 years of suppressed grief. Justine moved first, kneeling beside him, not touching, just present. "I couldn't," Elon choked out. "I couldn't let myself feel it. It was going to destroy me." "I know," Justine said softly. "I know. I left you alone at the hospital. I left you with his body. What kind of father, what kind of husband?" "A broken one," Justine said. "We were both broken, Elon. We just broke differently." Griffin and his siblings watched their parents kneeling in the sand, finally grieving together for the son they'd lost 22 years ago. "Should we give them space?" Saxon whispered. "No," Justine said, overhearing. "Come here, all of you, please." They gathered around Griffin, Vivian, Kai, Saxon, Damien. Even Grimes brought X and Exact closer. Shivan brought the twins. All of Elon's children from all his relationships, surrounding their father as he finally let himself feel the loss he'd been running from for 2 decades. "I'm sorry," Elon said, his voice barely audible. "To all of you. I was so scared of losing anyone else that I never let myself be close. I thought if I kept moving, kept building, kept optimizing, I could engineer away the pain. But you can't. You can't solve grief like an equation." "No," Justine agreed. "You have to feel it. And I'm sorry too. Sorry I couldn't help you feel it. Sorry I was so lost in my own pain that I couldn't see yours." Griffin knelt beside his parents. "We're all sorry. We're all broken in different ways because of Nevada. But maybe we can start healing together." Elon looked at his children, really looked at them. "I've been a terrible father. I prioritized Mars over you, companies over connection, the mission over my own humanity." "Yes," Vivian said bluntly, "you have been." Elon flinched but nodded. Is there a way to fix it, or is it too late?" "It's not about fixing," Griffin said. "It's about trying, about being present, about seeing us as people instead of extensions of your legacy." "I don't know how," Elon admitted. "I've spent 20 years being the person who doesn't feel, who just builds. I don't know how to be anything else." "You learn," Justine said. "The same way you learned rocket science and engineering. You study, you try, you fail, you try again. But this time the subject is your own humanity." Elon was quiet for a long moment, staring at Nevada's photo. "He looks like Griffin, same eyes." "He looks like all of us," Justine said. "He's part of this family even though he's gone." "I want to put up a memorial," Elon said suddenly. "At the house. A garden maybe, with Nevada's name, so he's remembered, so everyone knows he existed." Justine smiled through tears. "He'd like that, I'd like that." They stayed on the beach for hours, talking, crying, sometimes just sitting in silence. The children played at the water's edge, X teaching Exa how to jump waves, the triplets skipping stones, Griffin and Vivian walking together along the shore. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks, Elon stood and addressed everyone. "I'm not going to pretend everything is fixed. It's not. I've hurt all of you. I'm facing lawsuits, public scrutiny, consequences I deserve. But I want you to know I hear you. What you said in the Times article, Griffin, what you've said in your letters, I hear you." He took a shaky breath. "I'm going to therapy. Real therapy, not just talking to someone once. I'm going to learn how to be human again, how to feel without running. And I'm going to try to be a better father. I can't promise I'll succeed. I'm 53 years old, set in my ways, but I want to try." "That's all we're asking," Griffin said. "Just try." Elon nodded. He walked to Nevada's memorial, touched the photo frame gently. "I'm sorry, son," he whispered. Sorry I couldn't save you. Sorry I ran from you instead of remembering you. But I'm going to remember you now. Every day, I promise." He placed his own letter beside the others. None of them read it. It was between Elon and Nevada. As they packed up to leave, Elon stopped Griffin. "The lawsuits," Elon said awkwardly. "I'm dropping them, against your mother, against all of you. My lawyers say it's a mistake, that I'm admitting fault, but I don't care anymore. You were right. Some things matter more than protecting my image." Griffin felt relief flood through him. "Thank you. And the NDA. I'm releasing your mother from it completely. She can tell her story however she wants. She's earned that right." Justine overheard and turned, shocked. "Elon." "It's done," Elon said. "My lawyers are filing the paperwork tomorrow. You're free, Justine, to speak, to write, to tell your truth. No more silencing." Tears streamed down Justine's face. "Why?" "Because Nevada would have wanted us to be honest," Elon said simply. "And because I'm tired of being the person who silences people. I want to try being someone different." Grimes approached with, "We should go. It's past his bedtime." Elon picked up his son, holding him close, really holding him, not just carrying him. "Did you have fun today, X?" "I met Nevada," X said seriously. "He's my brother, even though he's dead." "Yes," Elon said, his voice thick with emotion. "He is, and we're going to remember him, always." As families dispersed to their cars, Griffin stood with his mother, watching the sun disappear into the Pacific. "Did we do the right thing?" Griffin asked. "Going public, forcing all this." "Yes," Justine said firmly. "Because look," she gestured to the beach, where Elon stood with X, both of them looking at the ocean. "He's trying. For the first time in 20 years, he's actually trying to be present. That wouldn't have happened without the truth coming out." "He's still Elon Musk," Griffin said. "Still driven, still obsessed with Mars. That won't change." "No," Justine agreed. "But maybe he can be Elon Musk and a father, both things, if he really tries." They walked to Justine's car. Before getting in, she hugged Griffin tightly. "I'm proud of you," she said. "Of all my children, you were braver than I ever was. You told the truth when I couldn't. You freed me. You freed all of us." "We learned from you," Griffin said. "You survived him. That taught us we could too." Justine drove away, and Griffin stood alone on the beach for a moment longer. He thought about Nevada, the brother he'd never met. The baby whose death had fractured a family and sent reverberations through 22 years. But maybe Nevada's legacy wasn't just pain. Maybe it was also this, a family finally learning to grieve together, to be honest together, to heal together. Griffin's phone buzzed. A text from Vivian. "Vivian, same time next year, Nevada's birthday. Griffin, every year, forever. Vivian, good, he deserves to be remembered." Griffin looked at Nevada's memorial, the candles still flickering in the twilight. Tomorrow they'd clear it away, return the beach to normal, but the memory would stay. Nevada Alexander Musk. Born May 2002. Died June 2002. 10 weeks of life that mattered more than anyone had acknowledged. Until now. Griffin walked to his car, ready to return to his life, college, his own dreams, his own future. No longer defined by being Elon Musk's son. No longer burdened by secrets and silence. Just Griffin, living honestly, loving openly, honoring the past while building his own future. Behind him, the Pacific Ocean whispered against the shore, eternal and patient, washing away footprints but never the memories of those who'd stood there. Nevada's legacy lived on. Not in rockets or companies or missions to Mars, but in a family that finally learned to tell the truth. And sometimes, that was the most revolutionary thing of all. 1 year later, May 2026. Griffin sat in a coffee shop near UT Austin, staring at his laptop screen. The cursor blinked on a blank document titled, "The Silent Truth, a Memoir." He'd been avoiding this for months. His journalism professor had encouraged it. Vivian had pushed him. Even his mother had said, "Your generation tells stories differently. Maybe you're the one who should write ours." But every time Griffin tried to start, the weight of everything stopped him. How do you write about your father being Elon Musk? About your brother dying before you were born? About breaking your family's silence? His phone buzzed. A video call from Vivian. "Have you started writing yet?" she asked, her face filling the screen. She was in San Francisco now, working for a nonprofit that helped people escape abusive NDAs. "I opened the document," Griffin said. "That's not starting. I don't know how to tell it. There's too much, too many perspectives." Vivian leaned closer to her camera. "Then tell the truth, not Dad's version, not Mom's version, not even our version. The actual truth that everyone was right and wrong at the same time. That families are complicated. That genius doesn't excuse cruelty, but trauma explains it." "That's not satisfying," Griffin said. "People want heroes and villains." "Then give them humans instead," Vivian said. "That's more revolutionary anyway." After they hung up, Griffin stared at the blank page again. Then he started typing. "I existed because my brother died. That's the truth no one wants to talk about. Nevada Alexander Musk lived for 10 weeks in 2002. When he died of SIDS, my parents' marriage began dying too. 3 years later, I was born through IVF, genetically screened, medically optimized, designed to be safer than the son they'd lost. This is the story of what happens when a genius tries to solve grief through engineering, when a family stays silent for 16 years, when children learn their existence was meant to fix something that couldn't be fixed. This is the story of my family, and it's messier than you think." Griffin wrote for 3 hours, words pouring out, not polished, not perfect, just honest. When he finally stopped, his phone rang, unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him. "Griffin, this is your father." Griffin's heart jumped. He and Elon had spoken a handful of times since the beach memorial, but it was still awkward, careful, both of them learning a new language. "Dad, hi. I'm in Austin for a Starbase meeting. I was wondering, could we have coffee, just us?" Griffin looked at his laptop, at the memoir he just started. Writing about his father while sitting across from him felt surreal. "Sure. Where?" "Wherever you want, your territory." 20 minutes later, Elon Musk walked into the coffee shop wearing jeans and a SpaceX hoodie. People noticed, heads turned, whispers started, but he ignored them and sat across from Griffin. "You look good," Elon said. "Healthy." "Thanks, you too." It was true. Elon looked different, still intense, but softer somehow, less brittle. "I've been in therapy," Elon said without preamble. "Twice a week for a year. It's difficult, talking about feelings instead of solving problems, but I'm learning things." "Like what?" Griffin asked. "Like I used work as an addiction, to avoid grief, avoid connection, avoid anything that felt vulnerable. My therapist says I have an avoidant attachment style combined with narcissistic tendencies shaped by childhood trauma." Elon laughed bitterly. "Sounds terrible when you say it out loud." "Dad, everyone has damage. At least you're working on yours." "Am I, though?" Elon looked genuinely uncertain. "I still work 80-hour weeks. I still think about Mars constantly. I'm still terrible at remembering birthdays. Can people really change, or do we just become aware of our patterns without actually breaking them?" Griffin thought carefully. Maybe change isn't about becoming a different person. Maybe it's about being honest about who you are. You're never going to be a warm, fuzzy dad who coaches Little League. But you could be a dad who admits that, who doesn't pretend, who shows up when he can and owns it when he can't. Elon nodded slowly. "Your mother said something similar, that she didn't need me to be different. She needed me to stop pretending I was something I wasn't." Are you two talking? Every few weeks, mostly about you kids, but sometimes about Nevada, about what we could have done differently. It's painful, but it's also healing. A barista brought Elon's coffee. He sipped it, staring out the window at students hurrying between classes. I saw the Times is publishing your mother's book next month, Elon said. About the marriage, the divorce, everything. Yeah, are you? How do you feel about that? Terrified, Elon admitted. It's going to be brutal. She doesn't hold back. I read an advance copy she sent me, but it's also fair. She shows me as human, damaged but not evil, brilliant but broken. I can live with that. The reviews are calling it the definitive account of what it's like to be married to a genius, Griffin said. What it's like to be married to a man who treats people like problems to solve, Elon corrected. That's the real story, right? Griffin pulled up his laptop, showing Elon the memoir he'd started. I'm writing our story too, from my perspective, how it felt to grow up as your son. Elon read the opening paragraphs, his expression unreadable. When he finished, he was quiet for a long time. You're a good writer, he finally said. Better than me. You got that from your mother. What did I get from you? Elon smiled sadly. The need to understand things, to dig until you find the truth even when it hurts, that's very Musk. Is it okay that I'm writing this? Griffin, I released your mother from her NDA. I'm not going to silence you. Write whatever you need to write, just be fair, be honest. That's all I ask. Even if being honest makes you look bad. Especially then, Elon said, because hiding it makes me look worse. They sat in silence for a moment. Outside, Austin bustled with life, students, musicians, tech workers building the future just like Elon but on a smaller scale. I read Sarah Chen's obituary, Elon said quietly. She died last month, the cancer. Griffin nodded. I know, I sent flowers to the funeral. I've been thinking about her, about Tallulah Brown, who she used to be, about how I destroyed her career because she witnessed something inconvenient. And I keep asking myself, was it worth it? Did silencing her actually protect Tesla, or did it just protect my ego? What do you think? I think it protected my ego, Elon said. And I think she died carrying anger toward me that she shouldn't have had to carry. That's on me. That's something I have to live with. Griffin was startled by the admission, his father actually taking responsibility. Have you apologized to the other people you silenced? Some of them, Elon said. The ones who will talk to me. I've been quietly settling lawsuits, releasing people from NDAs, offering financial compensation. My lawyers think I'm insane, but my therapist says it's necessary for healing. And what do you think? I think I destroyed lives to build companies, and companies don't comfort you when you're dying. People do. I want to fix what I can, even if it's too late for some. Griffin felt something shift in his chest. This was the father he'd always wanted, flawed, honest, trying, not perfect, just present. The triplets are starting college in the fall, Griffin said. Kai's going to Stanford, Saxon to Berkeley, Damien to MIT, all engineering programs. Like their father, Elon said with a small smile. Like themselves, Griffin corrected. They're studying sustainable engineering, green energy, environmental systems. They want to save the planet, not escape it. Elon nodded. That's fair. Mars is my dream, doesn't have to be theirs. And Vivian's engaged to a woman named Ashley. They're getting married next spring. Elon's expression flickered, something complicated passing through. Is she inviting me? Do you want to be invited? Yes, Elon said quietly. Despite everything, despite her changing her name, disowning me publicly, she's still my child. I want to be there. Then tell her that, Griffin said. Don't wait for an invitation. Ask if you can come, be vulnerable. That's what she needs from you. Elon pulled out his phone, typing slowly. Griffin watched his father, one of the world's most powerful men, carefully crafting a text to his estranged daughter, asking if he could attend her wedding. How's this? Elon showed Griffin the screen. Vivian, I heard you're getting married. Congratulations. I know I haven't been the father you needed. I know I hurt you in ways I'm still understanding. But if you'll have me, I'd like to be there. Not as Elon Musk, just as your dad, I love you. I'm sorry it took me so long to say it. Send it, Griffin said. Elon hit send, then stared at his phone like it might explode. What if she says no? Then you respect that, and you try again later. That's what being a parent means, showing up even when it's hard. Elon's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen and his eyes filled with tears. Vivian's response, you can come, but you don't get to walk me down the aisle. Mom's doing that. You can sit in the back and watch. That's what you're good at, watching from a distance. Maybe someday you'll learn to be closer, but this is a start. She said yes, Elon whispered. She's letting me come. That's huge, Dad. That's progress. Elon wiped his eyes quickly, embarrassed by the emotion. Your generation is braver than mine. You tell the truth. You set boundaries. You don't just survive dysfunction, you call it out and demand better. We learned from watching you and Mom, Griffin said. We saw what happens when people don't speak up, when silence becomes complicity. We decided to be different. Good, Elon said. Be different, be better, I mean that. They talked for another hour, about Griffin's studies, about Elon's latest rocket designs, about Nevada's memorial garden that Elon had built at one of his properties. Real conversation, father and son actually connecting. As they stood to leave, Elon hesitated. Griffin, I want to tell you something about Nevada, something I've never told anyone. Griffin waited. The night he died, after I left the hospital, I didn't just go to work. I sat in my car in the SpaceX parking lot and screamed. For an hour. I screamed until my voice gave out. Then I went inside and worked on rocket designs because I didn't know what else to do with the pain. Elon's voice was barely above a whisper. I wasn't cold. I wasn't unfeeling. I was drowning. And work was the only life raft I knew how to grab, but it meant leaving your mother to drown alone. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Griffin hugged his father, something he hadn't done in years. Elon stood stiff for a moment, then relaxed into it. I forgive you, Griffin said. And I think Mom does too. The question is, do you forgive yourself? Elon pulled back, wiping his eyes. I'm working on it. As Elon left the coffee shop, Griffin watched him go. A man who'd built rockets and revolutionized industries, still learning how to be human. Griffin returned to his laptop and kept writing. The story poured out, not just the pain and broken promises, but also the healing. The beach memorial, his father in therapy, Vivian's wedding invitation, the slow, imperfect process of a family learning to be honest. His phone buzzed. A group text from his siblings. Vivian, Dad just texted me, asked about the wedding. Did you two talk? Griffin, yeah, at coffee, he's trying Vive. Kai, is he really, or is this another PR move? Saxon, give him credit, he dropped the lawsuits, released Mom's NDA, that's real change. Damien, change is a process, he's in the process, that's enough for now. Vivian, I invited him to the wedding, I'm terrified, but also hopeful. Is that stupid? Griffin, it's not stupid, it's brave. That's what we do, we're brave enough to hope even when we've been hurt. Vivian, when did you get so wise? Griffin, when I stopped trying to fix Dad and started trying to understand him. Griffin closed his laptop and walked out into the Austin afternoon. The world was bright, hot, full of possibility. Somewhere his father was flying to Starbase. His mother was finishing her book. His siblings were building their own lives. And Griffin, he was writing their story, the real story. Not the mythology of Elon Musk, genius savior of humanity. Not the tragedy of Justine Musk, silenced wife. But the truth of a family that broke, bled, and slowly learned to heal. He thought about Nevada, the brother he'd never met but who'd shaped everything. 10 weeks of life that rippled through 24 years and counting. Nevada's legacy wasn't rockets or companies. It was this, a family that finally learned to grieve together, to be honest together, to hold both love and pain simultaneously without running from either. Griffin pulled out his phone and added one more line to the group text. Griffin, next May, Nevada's birthday, beach again. Everyone, Vivian, everyone including Dad. Griffin, everyone including Dad, even if it's awkward, even if it's hard, we show up. That's what family means. Kai, deal. Saxon, I'll bring the letters. Damien, I'll bring Dad, make sure he actually comes. Vivian, okay, we do this every year, forever. Griffin smiled, pocketing his phone. The Musk family was still broken in places, still healing. Still figuring out how to be together without the weight of secrets and silence. But they were trying. And sometimes, trying was the most revolutionary thing of all, especially when you were the children of a man who'd spent his life trying to revolutionize everything except himself. Griffin walked back to his apartment, already thinking about the next chapter of his memoir. The hardest chapter. The one where he had to write about forgiveness, about loving someone who'd hurt you, about accepting that people could be brilliant and terrible, visionary and broken, worth both admiration and anger. The chapter where he had to admit Elon Musk was his father, flawed, difficult, sometimes cruel, but also human, trying to change, worthy of a second chance, not because he'd earned it, but because that's what family meant. You kept showing up. You kept hoping. You kept believing that people could grow, even when they'd spent decades proving they couldn't. Griffin opened his laptop one more time and typed the closing lines of his memoir. My father wanted to save humanity by sending it to Mars, but he forgot that humanity isn't a species to be preserved. It's individual people with individual pain who need individual love. Nevada died and my father tried to solve death itself. But some things can't be solved. They can only be felt, remembered, honored. This is the story of my family learning that lesson, the hard way, over 24 years. With tears, lawsuits, public statements, and finally, honest conversations on a beach where we remembered the brother who started it all. I don't know if my father will ever fully heal. I don't know if our family will ever be normal, whatever that means. But I know this, we're telling the truth now, and that's revolutionary enough. For Nevada, for us. For anyone who's ever loved someone brilliant and broken and tried to figure out whether love is enough. Spoiler, love isn't enough. But it's a start, and sometimes a start is everything. Griffin closed his laptop, the story finally told, not perfectly, not neatly, but honestly. And in the Musk family, honesty was the real revolution. The truth that had taken 16 years to break free and would echo forward for generations. Nevada Alexander Musk, May 2002, June 2002, 10 weeks of life, an eternity of impact, remembered, finally, forever. And that was the end of this story. The Musk family's 16-year silence finally broken. A tale of grief, genius, and the courage it takes to choose truth over comfort. Before you go, we'd love to know, where are you listening from? Drop your location in the comments below. Are you in New York, London, Tokyo, somewhere else entirely? Let us know. If this story moved you, touched you, or made you think differently about the cost of silence, please hit that like button. It helps us bring more of these deeply researched, emotionally powerful stories to listeners like you. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We dive deep into untold stories, hidden truths, and the complex lives of people who shape our world. There's so much more to explore together. Finally, and this is important, share this video with your friends and family. Stories like this spark conversations. They remind us that behind every headline is a human story and that speaking truth, even when it's difficult, matters. Share it to spread kindness. Share it to spread awareness. Share it because someone in your life might need to hear that their voice matters too. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring. And thank you for being part of a community that values truth over mythology. Until next time, keep questioning, keep listening, and keep seeking the stories that matter.